Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. We have a fun episode today. Today we have Scotty Reel from the Dude Grows Show.
What's up, y'all? All y'all?
What's up, Scotty?
Yeah, it's good to be here, man. I'm just looking at Google Hangouts, let you see everybody, man. It's so much different, man. Love you guys, miss you guys, man. Can't wait to hang out with y'all.
Oh yeah, it's been a little while.
Absolutely, man. Good deal. Thanks for having me on, brother.
All right, and we got Mr. Green Jeans.
Peace.
Yeah, Mr. Drama, man. Now you see me, now you don't, homie. Glad I see you, brother.
We got Marty.
Hey, what's going on?
We got Mr. Fish Ganja Guy.
Word.
And we got Roger.
Hey everybody, had some technical difficulties. I'm getting back online with a different computer. So I'm here though.
I can vouch for him. He's very good looking.
There you go. Yeah. And then we got Tommy J.
I'm trying to get my microphone unmuted. I'm trying to get over to my other camera. It's looking at the back of the monitor right now. That picture looks a hell of a lot better than I do anymore. Really glad to be here and looking forward to it. Hey, Scotty.
Yo, what's up, man? I ain't seen you in a bit. How you been?
Yeah.
I'm going to sell me a car. I don't know why, but I want to buy a used car from you.
From who?
The person in that picture, Tommy. Yeah, you got the suit and the tie, and I don't know why. I just feel like I buy a car from you.
I want to buy an extended warranty from him, man, you know? I'd buy a car from somebody who looks like Steve, but the warranty's where it gets serious, man.
Just because you figure they need to eat, right? Is that the reason you'd buy it from Steve? I need to buy it.
Oh, shit, man.
I can't even afford soap. Look.
Yeah. Here's $5. Go get a bath. You know?
Dude, man, what's the story behind your dreads? Why don't you tell us all? When did you start? When did you grab your balls and decide that you were going to grow dreads, man?
This is my second set of dreads. I grew these when I moved to Colorado from the East Coast. So started growing for the legal weed industry. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a statement. And when you're growing dreads, you're like, ask me about my cause, you know?
My daughter
beat me up and arrest me. I mean, in L.A., you know, I'd be worried more about getting beat up and arrested than I would be about a cause.
But it's a statement, man. You're saying 24/7, I'm on, man. You know?
I haven't really had too much issues with getting harassed too much. A little bit on the East Coast, a little bit at airports once in a while, but whatever.
No, I don't mean harassed. I mean that it is a statement, though. You know?
Oh yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the cup you guys got coming up? We've had I've been to a couple of them, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, man, we kind of play it. It's just really for our friends to get together. Just like I'm seeing all you guys, and some of y'all, I'm like, dude, I haven't seen you since last year's cup. Oh man, I made so many friends, you know, over the course of the last few years, and that was the whole purpose of that show. Was I was out here in Colorado, and I had a handful of friends, you know, that grew and that I could really have an intelligent conversation with about growing. And so dude and I started talking in public, and I'll be damned, you know, we learned a shitload in public, man. I'm like, we've like metamorphosized, man. Anyway, man, so it's just a kind of a get together. Once a year, we decided, as soon as it got big enough, we decided that right around 420, we would rent a spot out. Cultivated Synergy is this awesome spot right in Denver. And we decided we'd rent it out and invite all our friends to come on and kind of show what they're growing. You know, we're a community of growers. We've had, I don't know, between 30 and, you know, we'll have a couple hundred people show up. We'll probably have about 30 different entries as far as strains go. And it's just a real friendly kind of attaboy kind of thing. So you can see what everybody's doing, and everybody does learn through constructive criticism. So and a lot of times you're your own harshest judge. So once you see those other 30 strains and start talking to other folks about what they did, a lot of times you can bring home a few tips on improving your quality or stepping up your game a little bit. So that's the kind of the idea behind it. So it's a smoking competition. No, it's not a smoking competition. It is a competition where we're going to award the top 3 growers. We're going to give prizes to them, and I'll be having my own smoking competition there, man. No, it's just a real fun time, man. So it's April 14th. It's coming up in 2 weeks. It's in Denver at Cultivated Synergy. It's called the DGC Cup. It's an invite only thing just because the way the laws are, you have to be invited. If you'd like to be invited, just email dgccup@gmail.com. And we're not too snooty, man. We'll probably let you in. But yeah, I hope to see all you guys there, man.
Oh yeah, I'll be there.
I'll pass it around on the forum too. I'll put a post up and see if we get any guys off the forum that live out west that would like to get over there. There's a few still around over there. That might be
Yeah,
kinda neat.
bet. There are a few growers still around here, I've noticed, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, from my forum though, that are out. We got a lot of East Coast people, but we've still got people all the way to Alaska and Canada and all. But you know, some of them, damn, I actually don't know of too many in Colorado actually on our forum, but that would be neat. I need to put that out there. They might be interested because they all love to do that stuff. They just don't know about it, you know.
Right. I'm gonna put my beard cam on, man. I'm gonna do it. So everybody, put your beard cams on, man.
Well, that's my, you know, that's because I'm blind. I got to keep leaning forward to see the screen, and then I said, "Oh, okay, you're right. Yeah, it is too beard cam, isn't it?" Okay.
I just woke up, so I'm ready to laugh and have a good time with my boys, man. So what's up, all y'all?
So it's been a little while since you've been on the show. Why don't you tell people a little bit about what you do during the week?
Me?
Yeah.
Today I stayed in bed all day, man. I'm only kidding, man. We do the Dude Grow show twice a day. We try to get them out twice a day. In the morning, it's Wake and Bake America, comes out at 4:20 a.m. And then in the afternoon, we do Grow Talk questions, 4:20 p.m.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, man. I'm just glad to see young people doing something, right?
Right. And then you guys also have a super cool microbial that we often talk about on here, Recharge. You want to just give a quick plug on that?
Yeah, man. I love talking about myself, man. That's the most I've talked about myself in a while, man. I did. I understood. I didn't understand. I started learning and became really fascinated by soil microbes. When I learned that the soil was alive, that kind of explained what I was doing wrong. When I was growing, I would use rock wool or totally inert stuff. I thought the media was just something to hold up your plant and that you were just supposed to pour chemicals on the plant, and that we had it all figured out. And as long as you got those right chemicals going, you were good to go. And what I learned was that the way it really is supposed to work, that you're supposed to have a network of living organisms, microbes. There's actually a kind of a whole network of it, a web, a soil food web. And that's what regulates your plant. And those things are able to store food and hold them. They're able to process food. And that's how plants really grow. When something's in balance, you trying to get the perfect chemical formulation is really difficult. But loading your soil up with a bunch of microbes, a bunch of bacteria and fungi, filling their bellies and then letting them kind of go on the signals of the plant and letting that all work together, man, that's the way soil was supposed to work. And I found out it works indoors. It works with salt-based fertilizers as well as with organics, man. It's really cool. If you load up the soil with microbes, man, your plants become a lot less reactive and kind of start managing themselves. So that I came up with a product called Recharge, which is a living soil pack. It's a blend of microbes with bacteria. It's bacteria and fungi with a food source, and then I put some aminos and some humics and fulvics in there, things to build a soil body. So yeah, I call it a living soil super pack. It's called Recharge. And if anybody wants to check some out, hit me up on realgrowers.com. I'm glad to let you try some for free and hopefully turn your head the way it turned my head, man. I'm a different grower these days, you know?
That sounds like something be great for the guys that like to grow in Pro Mix and do soilless, to add your pack to the Pro Mix. And
yeah, because I mean, that's actually a good media. I found out there's lots of places you can grow these bacteria, you know, and just even, you know, sometimes they're not going to sustain as much. If, you know, in Steve's soil with, you know, everything he's got in there, he's going to actually be able to grow them. He's going to be actually use these once or twice and start growing these and sustaining them in his soil. For guys that are pouring a ton of salts on, you're going to have to use it pretty much every week or so, you know, keep on reintroducing them. But man, there are techniques to use these living soil microbes to hold more nutrient in your soil. And man, it's crazy. The more I learn about this stuff, like I got mad respect for Steve growing with fishes and whatnot, because we got huge problems. I used to windsurf back in Florida, and sometimes I'd go to a lake and there would be suds, literally suds on the side of the lake, man, from like septic tanks and people's laundry detergent. It looked like laundry detergent, you know. It's phosphorus is what it is, and it's from, you know, phosphorus is in laundry detergent. It's also in all that fertilizer that the ChemLawn dude comes and sprays once a month, so you set it and forget it kind of bullshit, you know.
Yep.
Anyway, off my soapbox real quick, but being on using soil biology, yeah, I think Scotty's talking way too long. Soil biology holds that shit, man. So it holds the nutrient, even salt-based nutrient. There's soil biology. There's bacteria that will eat that, and it'll hold it. Just like you know, just like when we wake up in the morning, our teeth are sticky. It's bacteria on there. Can't drink a glass of water and wash them off. You got to brush them things off, man. It's the same thing. You want that stickiness in your soil, because that's what's going to keep the nutrient bonded to your root, you know, in the root zone, that rhizosphere, and keep it from washing out into the freaking lakes and our water sources that we're drinking and bathing in, you know? All right, I'm stepping off the soapbox.
Your product could make it great too for those of us that like to keep reusing our soil over and over. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I hate to see people throwing soil out, man. That makes me feel like I'm not getting it. When I'm throwing soil out and hiding it from the garbage, man, that makes me feel like I'm not getting it, man. I'm fucking up, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what's great about, you know, that everyone's shifting more towards microbial rich and probiotic soils and stuff like that, you know?
All right, this seems like an indica sativa commercial. I'm sativa and you're indica. Go.
Right? So you're building a greenhouse. You want to tell us about that and what you got going on? You wanted to talk about some of that stuff?
Man, would you mind if we talked about it a little bit? Because I need your advice on it, Steve.
Sure. Yeah, let's hear about it.
All right, I'm building a wallapini. First off, I just like to say the word, okay? Wallapini. And then, like, if you come over, I can be like, hey, man, pretty sure you left your soil probe in my wallapini last week, man. You know, that's the gayest thing I can possibly say, and it actually might mean something, man, you know? Anyway, man, I was fucking with the Blue Lab chick last week. She came in, and yeah, it was good, man. I made her legitimately uncomfortable. Anyway, dude, a wallapini's a sunken greenhouse. I believe I think 6 foot down is kind of that zone where I mean, you help me understand these concepts, but I'm pretty, you know, the earth is hot, you know, in the center, right? It's got that molten core. It's radiating heat out from the center. Right at about 6 foot is where it kind of, you know, starts mixing in with the temperature of the earth. So if you go down below 6 foot, you've got like, basically it's like 55, 60 degree temperatures there. So if you can insulate a box or insulate, you know, dig out a room that's 6 foot, 8 foot deep, you're getting a whole bunch of heat from the center. You know, I don't say center. Yeah, I guess it is the center. You're getting the Earth's heat. You're taking, it's that geothermal 60-degree heat. And so the idea is to dig down and then dig a greenhouse, basically. Like, think about just like a big shoebox that's sunk maybe like 6 feet underground, and maybe we'll say 8 feet underground, and then just tilt the roof, you know, just make the roof like that, a little bit of a slanted roof. You know, it's a single pitched roof that's facing the sun. So it's facing the north. And so it takes advantage of a long day. The sun's heating it up all day. You know, it's like, you know, you get that greenhouse effect where the sun's heating it up. It's getting that geothermal heat from below. Man, it really doesn't take much. There's a couple other tricks that you can do, but it doesn't take much to keep that thing right at about 60 degrees all the time. Maybe even, I think they were saying like 70, 74 when you take the geothermals right at about 60, and then take the solar heat coming in, and you get it in the 70s, even when it's freezing outside in Colorado. That sounds freaking awesome. I don't want to fight Mother Nature. I don't want to have the guy come and fill my propane tank so that I can grow food sustainably. That don't sound right, man.
If you were here, you'd be and dug a 6 foot hole to do a greenhouse. You'd be 6.2 inches underwater.
Where you at?
I'm at, but
where you at?
Carolina. You dig down a foot, you're in water.
Yeah, I thought about the,
But no, at Colorado though, yeah, I did a lot of research there because I was wanting to buy land. Go ahead, Scotty. Go ahead, bud.
Oh, I was just smoking, man. It's all good. I was just thinking about. I forgot that one time I did bury a container in Florida, back when I had the whole hustler mentality.
I did research in Colorado. I almost moved out there a few years ago, and
man, we got some delay going, huh?
Someone's looping for Roger or something. I'm not sure what's going on there. Probably was just, hey, Scotty, what is it that you're smoking? What is that device?
Man, this thing is fucking cool. Dude, I'm not like a cigarette smoker. I've never been. Dude, God forbid you should ask me a question. I should just go, it's the Plenty by Stores and Bickle, right? There's always got to be a story. It's Stores and Bickle Plenty. Man, it's one of these, I've been trying to get away from actually smoking stuff. I've never been a smoker, and it's always kind of freaked me out. Anytime I get like a hack or a cough, it always freaks me out. But I love smoking weed. So even if I get a hack or a cough, I don't even want to take the day off. I still want to smoke weed. So over the years, I was like, vaporizers, those seem cool. So I had a Volcano through the years. I still have it, man. I kind of retired it. It's like the old man that I don't want to make them work anymore. But I still keep them around. The Volcano's gotta be, I don't know, man, 16, 17 years old. So Stores and Bickle makes a product that just like, they're really meant to, to use for years and years. They're like $500 for a fucking vaporizer, but you can use it for 15 years. So I've been biting the bullet on them. I bought the Volcano, and that shit was good enough where I bought this thing. And I'll tell you, the only thing is it's for a grower. I'll give you this straight up. Hang on a second. Look at the size of the fucking bowl on it. It takes probably a solid gram to pack in this thing. Might as well say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a grower, but look at the size of this thing.
how much was it?
I think they're about 420.
How much was that one?
Get them for? But the thing is, man, this tastes good through and through. I mean, you can smoke this thing and you really do taste the flavor of the weed. It's like kind of dry. You know how sometimes you'll dry hit a joint and you'll get that flavor and you'll be like, oh man, that's going to fucking taste good. Dude, it's kind of like what it is, but it's bubbling the crystals off, and you set it right about 420 degrees. I call them crystals, the trichromes, man. It's bubbling the I don't know, for lack of a better word. Yeah, the crystals off, man. The actives off. And man, does it fucking feel great, man. And it lasts for like 15, 20. Look, it's got this trigger right here. I swear to God, it's to make sure you're still conscious, so it doesn't burn the weed. Because when you go,
So you like it better than your Volcano?
I do, man, because you don't have to finish the whole bag. And like I said, you just kind of chill. You realize you've been staring at the wall for 35 minutes, and it turns itself off, and you just go, click.
Well, I thought that Volcano bag, you could leave it sit there all day and hit on it whenever you wanted to, and it still was as viable.
You can do a lot of things, man.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like
All right. So it's not about the bag. Okay. You just
taste
don't want to see you because you're one of the guys that would suck the whole bag down at once. Okay. I got it. All right. Sorry.
That's awesome. We've had some good times putting those turkey bags on the Volcano. You know what I mean? Those big giant ones.
No. What's better is you go and you get a bag for like a dress from the dry cleaner, and you put rubber bands on the end, and you get the fucking 6 foot bag, man. Or if you can get the roll.
Yeah, I got those. Yeah,
10 or 20-foot rolls of the bags, and then you just rubber band the end. You get the big giant, like people-sized bags. We used to do that all the time.
Sounds like a new cup event, man. Should we do it?
Well, we could just go get a 2-foot tube, length 100 feet if you really want to get crazy. See if we can fill that up, tie off one end of 100 foot of tube like
Hey, this is why I have the DGC cup, man. So because the shit gets real, man. One idea is better than the other.
Right? We had a blast last time in Portland. Oh,
yes.
Go ahead.
I'm just smoking, hanging out with you guys, man. I feel like I'm in the motor mouth, man. You guys talk for a while.
I put together a little thing. I showed this on a talk we did with you guys, but I figured I'll share it with you guys on this show too, real quick.
Thanks for sharing, brother.
All right. All right. So here we go. Can everyone see it? Is it working right?
Yes, Steve.
All right. So I just wanted to show you guys in this case. So this is a geothermal we did, and this could work with your Wallapini, and this is something you could do with any kind of greenhouse.
Okay.
What we did in this line here is we put some cable in underneath that we were running glycol line. This is the same kind you run in like concrete for in-floor heating. We found you didn't need to do it super deep. We ended up just not using this lower layer. It just didn't put any heat in the greenhouse. So we ended up putting a layer of gravel down, and then we put these tubes in. Hopefully you guys can see the mouse. Yeah, I think you guys can see the mouse. So we have these tubes here that connect these central manifolds, which are these 55-gallon drums that are connected end to end with the bottom cut out on the subsequent ones, except for the bottom one. Okay. Then we layered that, so you can see the different layers of the different tubing here, each layer. And what that does is it allows us to get heat exchange. So when we bury that in the gravel, it allows us to cool down the air. That'll always be 55, 58, 60 degrees. In Colorado, it tends to be around 56, 57 degrees. Right. And then we ended up fully burying that so that we're up to our top layer. We put another layer of sand, and then we put another layer of this glycol tubing. This way we had a in-floor heating in the greenhouse too, which was really nice.
Jesus, this is legit as fuck, man.
So we built two of these.
I'm wondering. Okay, go ahead.
So we built two of these.
I'm wondering why there's no plastic insulation underneath your tubing there, like your tech foil or something.
Sure. So there's a reason for that, and that's I'm trying to bleed that heat off. This is going to work like air conditioning in the summertime, and then in the wintertime, I want it to be, it's still going to be around 55 degrees. What we later ended up doing is on this edge here, we ended up putting in roofing insulation in order to insulate the ground from the outside, the inside to the outside, and that helped again maintain an extra 3 to 5 degrees. 3 to 4 degrees actually is probably more likely, more temperature, because the ground inside the greenhouse always stayed slightly warmer than the ground next to it, which helped us a little bit as well for heat retention.
So how deep are you here? I was thinking 6 foot. You're not 6 foot here though. Do you don't need to go that deep, or how's that go?
So this hole here was 8 feet deep, but that was because we were digging it to the deepest part of the pond, which is this box here, which all the deepest part of the pumps go. The fish tend to grow down there when they get spooked, and that tends to be where all the fish poop collects. You'll see there's a giant pond that goes over this. So here's basically how that geothermal works if you're looking at it in a diagram. So how it would work is you'd have your tubing and your whatever you're using for your manifold. In this case, we use 55-gallon drums. That goes all the way up to the roof here, which allows you basically put a 100-watt solar fan on here, a little tiny solar panel, a little tiny car battery, and then or whatever battery bank you're going to use, and then a little tiny air fan here, and that just blows air underneath and then out the other side, which cools the air and allows you to get ultra cheap or free air conditioning. And all you need to do is maintain that. And you put that on a thermal switch, and then at the same time in the wintertime, especially like in Colorado, if it gets super cold at night, it'll kick on, and then you're going to pump 55, 56 degree air out all year round. Now, if it's super hot during the day, which often happens in Colorado, I'm going to hot air down and heat up that sand underground. So now that sand's going to be in the 60s, low 60s, or maybe even mid 60s if it's a hot day. And then at nighttime, it's going to blow out much warmer air because of that heat exchange. So now we're going to be able to equalize the temperature with zero cost per day. Not entirely, but it'll help significantly. Sure. At least as far as an extra thing. And again, you can add this to a Wallapini. Wallapini kind of is already incorporating some of this by its basic design, but
you're saying
this is great. I saw this last year. Steve showed me that. Now that's great. You're really putting it out there in public now, Steve. That's an excellent way. That passive radiant heating is what that is, and it's really interesting because you don't have any electric really. Well, other than a little fan, which you can draw both ways. I believe you can draw the heat in the winter from the upper side, and then in the summer you can draw it from the colder side, and it's kind of neat.
Yep. And then so go ahead.
Oh, I see this next picture here. You got some, I don't know if those are raised beds or what, but I was thinking, I was thinking about incorporating a fish pond in the center of the Wallapini, because isn't water a much better heat sink than, or a really effective heat sink? Is that something that you could do? Is that something? Tell me about that. What do you think about that idea?
That's the exact design that we actually used here. And actually, here, I'll go to the next slide. So you can actually see in the design, this is like a quick diagram of a bigger model, but just shows you how we had in our other greenhouse, a big giant pond underneath, about a third to half of the volume. And this allowed us to have the thermal mass. Now, along with the fact that all the grow beds are flooded with water, it allows us, if you're looking top down, to have over 80% coverage as far as that floor space. And this gives us an enormous amount of thermal mass that we can store.
And what's up with water? Like, so I remember I bought liquid lumen lights back in the day. The dude was like, yeah, they've got water cooled lights now, man. So of course I had to piss away my money on those things. That was great. You should have tried to navigate my room with 20 water cooled lights hung vertically, man. But man, water is an excellent carrier of heat, right? Or a conductor of heat or holder of heat. Tell me about that, if you could.
Yep. So water is a really good storer of heat. It takes a lot more energy to change the temperature of water than it does air. And if you get your temperature of your water dialed in, it'll actually thermal control your greenhouse. It'll only be within maybe 5 to 8 degrees of whatever the temperature of the water is, because the heat of the water is just simply going to not really allow it to change much more than that.
It has a lot to do with the mass of the water. Yep. The mass of the water keeps you from the temperature. It's just like the ocean. The ocean can only change so much temperature, and that's what we're getting in trouble. The ocean's getting warmer, not to get sideways, but it's all about the mass of the water that allows. Once it's warm, it's going to be warm for a long time, unless you're out in the real cold and shut it off.
Man, I was just reading this book about that, man. Me and those books, and it was talking about how when the ocean warms up like that, like different microbes. Steve, you could probably tell us more about this, but it was something like that. It acidifies. There's some type of plankton or microbe doesn't like the more acid water or something like that. You know anything? I think what it is it gets more acidic from the CO2, which ends up heating up the ocean. Do I got that right? I do fall asleep to these books, man. So
what happens is it heats up, it allows for less oxygen storage, and it ends up with more CO2 at the surface, which allows, more CO2 is more carbonic acid in the water, which creates more acidification, which drops the pH right at the surface. And the reason why that's an issue is that all your plankton and everything that's the basis for most of your food chains in the ocean are all living in that zone that's about to change significantly in pH potentially, and they can't tolerate that. They're a lot of them are single cell, or they're multicellular organisms that have a very small shell wall that's mostly made of calcium carbonate, which is going to dissolve pretty quickly, right, if the pH goes down much in the ocean. So,
man, that's serious, man. That's what I mean. It's really got me thinking. I'm building this wallapini, so maybe I don't have to participate in getting a red pepper from 2,500 miles away and burning a whole shitload of fossil fuel doing it and not knowing who the hell grew it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Good for you. Yep. Red pepper's really good food for everybody. Good, healthy food.
Yeah, man. Well, just even think about when you go to when I go to the store, a lot of times I'm like, fuck going to the, in Colorado, you get shitty food a lot of times, like produce and stuff like that. So a lot of times you won't even eat it, man. If you can grow your own and be like, I can't wait for that pepper to be ready. I've been eyeing that thing for 3 days. Really does change the value on it,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. Scotty, I dig what you're putting down. Me too, man. I'm right there with you.
I missed my mute button. I was going to say the one thing about it, what got me growing peppers, because that's what I've got is in a hydroponic pepper farm. And what started me was when I walked into Whole Foods one day and a bell pepper was $3.49. And I said, you ought to be able to grow them and save a lot of money and maybe make a few bucks, but don't buy into that
doing it
unless you got a gigantic freaking greenhouse and big farm. You're not going to make any money growing peppers. I'm going to tell you.
No, I ain't trying to
got specialty. Yeah, but I tried. I basically paid for my hobby of having a greenhouse is what it was. But it was just because I couldn't get big enough. You can't harvest enough peppers to make any money, no matter what you do. I mean, you filled out 250 pepper plants, and I still only got to harvest every couple of weeks for $100, $150,
Right.
So, that's what got it with me. But you're right. Red pepper. I love it, though, that you said the red pepper, because that's how I got into the business. I said, $3.50 for a pepper. I'm going to grow peppers.
$6
I go have an too. I grow habaneros. They're like $6.99, $7.99 a pound.
That's what I think this is about, man. Being able to grow shit that you can't get in the store. Man, think
Yeah.
about all the amazing. I'm from Florida, man, so I know about some amazing tropical fruits and just foods in general. From Central America and whatnot that that are just not seen. So to be able to grow those in this Wallapini, man, that sounds fucking awesome.
Hell yeah, and add some geothermal to that and really increase the energy usage so you don't have to cost you anything.
Can I give you the rundown of, because I put my contractor friend on this. I was like, yo, check this out. And man, he has just run wild with it. So he's come up with geothermal. He wants to dig a few feet deeper and put geothermal, which he calls a GATS system, which I guess, what is that?
Yep.
Geothermal air transfer system. Is that right?
Yep. That's exactly what I just showed. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what Steve just showed. But that's real effective. And then with the fish in the middle, with a big fish, I guess, be tank in the middle. I guess build that out of cinder blocks or something, but a giant sink there for heat. And and then the Wallapini itself, which is dug into the ground, which is a big heat sink. And it's a north facing wall. You get like this big thermal battery. As the sun goes across the sky, it hits this wall the whole day and kind of charges it up with solar energy. It's fucking cool, man.
I love what you're saying in the middle, because let somebody else talk. Somebody else wanted to talk.
Oh, I was just gonna say, what's really important if you're gonna do that is make sure you insulate your pond from the ground. The pond you do want to insulate, unless you're in an extremely hot area. Like if you're in the Coachella Valley, yeah, you want to bleed that heat off. But if you're in Colorado, you want to hold that heat in, especially in the winter times, and make sure you insulate that. We found that the cheapest way to do that is find anywhere, look up online, like roofing contractors, and find someone who's working on a flat top roof, and you go get the flat top roofing. It's super thick. You'll get it for free because they're just going to rip it off of someone's roof.
Sure.
You pull up to a dumpster, you load your car up, maybe do that 2 or 3 times, and you got enough to do your whole thing for free.
Now, when you say flat top roof, you're talking those flat tiles, those like 2-inch thick tiles?
Yeah, there's
flat squares.
Yeah, there's 2 to 4 inch thick flat squares of insulation. They put on top of roofs, and then they put the tar on top, and the you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Hey, hang on. I'm gonna go grab a charger real quick. I'm not leaving.
My buddy in Alaska that was on the show, Ray, up in Alaska, he does that. He does that roofing, and he talks about using that insulation that he puts down on the roofs. We were just talking about that this week. It's funny it come up today, tonight on the show, to use that. That's what you like, because that's what he was talking about they do on there. Up there on their
great.
roofs.
It's great for insulating the liner or insulating the ground between the outside and the inside of your greenhouse to hold that heat in. And it's cheap. It's literally free. And even if you're doing a commercial operation, you can go get it for free. It costs you nothing, and it's completely legal to use. And that can be a great way. The other thing I like to use, especially for putting underneath liners, I never put them on bare ground. I like to go get old carpeting. Again, go to the local carpet store and go grab the carpet that they ripped out of someone else's house. Who cares if it's stained? Just use it as a liner for your whatever is, if you're building any of your custom tanks or any of your insulation for any of your anything really, for any your sump tanks, your fish tanks, your plumbing or anything else, and you can even put that on there and have that as a nice cushion, allowing everything to float around, especially if you're in earthquake territory. Putting that on a sand bed is going to allow that to float around quite a bit in the event that you have an earthquake, and then again will allow your plumbing to move and not break, which will allow not have to repair them as often.
So when you compare that to tech foil, is it about the fact that you're getting this material for free, recycling it, or do you actually prefer it better than tech foil? Because I think in new applications we use tech foil a lot.
It has a better R value, and I can get it for free. So the cost is free, and it has a better R value. So
see, we don't have that here. We don't have a whole lot. There's some of that here. I don't see where we'd have any way to salvage it over here on the East Coast. I think that'd be a more northern, or maybe Colorado especially, because again, any cold area, you got more of that roof. That type of roofing is more prevalent in very cold areas most of the time, I think, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, any warehouse structure is going to have
Yeah, it's a
that.
good idea to recycle roofing material, though, man. Good heads up.
Yeah,
I
if
would
you
find
can.
some insulation.
Yeah,
Definitely.
because
And
that's
it's
some
free,
nasty
yeah.
stuff.
So what? And some of the other stuff I like to use. So we'll talk about this slide real quick. Is the solar heating? So we had solar water heater panels. We're getting a little bit of static noise here from I think Roger. If you could mute your mic or someone.
I
Anyways.
am muted and I've got my headphones on, so you're
Oh.
not getting any feedback from my speakers. I
Anyways,
that.
never mind. We'll no worries.
Let me
Not-
check. Make sure it's not me. Is it?
No. Well, yep, maybe it was. No worries. So we're with the solar water heaters. So these came off of a roof of someone in Boulder, and how we set these up on a giant metal rack. And what that did is we plumbed them underneath the ground here and up into the greenhouse. You can see the corner of the greenhouse. Those lines came into here and went into the ground. What this allowed us to do, this was on a thermal switch as well, and this allowed us to use these for two things. One, we could heat the water up in the wintertime. These we get up to 188 degree water out of this, and then in the summertime, say my water in the greenhouse got too hot, say it got 75, 76 degrees as far as the water goes, because the water will absorb a bunch of heat and it will help cool your greenhouse even when it gets hot, which is another benefit to it. At nighttime, I can turn this on manually and allow this to circulate until it hits a certain temperature and shut off. And this allows me to bleed heat off of the water because the panels are cold, they're exposed to cold air, and this allows us to, again, bleed that heat off of the water and very efficiently, especially if I'm in a place like Coachella, if I'm in a place like, Nevada. This can be, a great way to lower the temperature of the water during the day, or I'm sorry, at night, in dealing with high temperatures during the day.
Yeah, you don't think about it, but in the middle of the summer, it's hot here, man.
Yep. And again, too, for Colorado, where you deal with the extremes, when you stack this with the geothermal, it can really give you a really big advantage, expense-wise, dealing with climate control.
Yeah, because I think in Colorado, a place like that is so cold, it can get so cold at night that it'll drop beyond that 15-degree threshold that you want to keep, between day and night is around 15 degrees. And yeah, it's so cold up in the mountains like that. That's a really good tip, Steve. That was nice of you to show that, because I know that's some of your kind of private. I build big farms, and this is some of my private stuff where I get paid. So kudos for you to share all that tonight.
I do appreciate the sharing of information, brother. Look how professional that is, man. That's legit. So I'm glad. It's good to have friends. What do they say? The song goes "Friends in Low Places," and I used to love that because that's where all my friends were. But looks like I got friends in high places now too, man. Mr. Authority, thank you very much, sir.
Friends in get high places, right?
Yes, man. Dude, you guys need to help me, man. That sounds like a new T-shirt. We hooked up with Chieftain Clothing, and the guy's really cool. He's like a stoner that runs a clothing company, man, in Denver. And he's like, "Sure, bring it, man. What you got?" So, dude.
Oh, you mean like Woody Harrelson?
Oh yeah, yes. I wish.
I just want one that says I smoke. That's what I do. I smoke and I know things.
I love it, man. Let's do it.
That's what I want.
Dude, can I tell a quick story? Really, it's such an interruption, but I just went to go break up some bud, and I have this piece of paper. And my wife went down to Florida, and her father and my father-in-law is this super square accountant guy. I mean, he couldn't be any more square, but he kind of parties a little bit. He's like in his late 60s and still parties. He goes to strip clubs and stuff like that, and has a good time. All right, goes to clubs. We'll say that. So. He didn't really mention it, but he comes out and he gives Kristen, he goes, "Kristen, tell Scott I met a guy that's in his industry. Maybe he's heard of him. I don't know. I'll save his name for a little bit later so I don't blow the story. I'm trying to learn how to tell the story." But she goes, he went and partied with this guy at a strip club. My father-in-law did. And then he goes, "Oh yeah, here you go. He gave me this." He went to his car. I'm thinking probably to do more coke. And when he came back, he gave me this. And it was an article from Penthouse magazine. And I'm like, this can only be one guy, man. And it was Big Mike from Advanced.
Yep.
Yeah. Big Mike was down in South Florida, and of course at a strip club, and of course he
Yeah, we
ran
knew
into
as soon
my
as you said
father-in-law.
strip club, it was like, oh,
You know, I was just like, you got, and then it was like so obnoxious. The story she was telling me about him was so obnoxious. How he like went and handed a photocopy of his Penthouse magazine article with the last page is a picture of him. I mean, it was just fucking ridiculous, man. So I just thought it was so funny. I had to laugh about it,
that's
man.
classy.
We've been
Classy.
talking. We've been talking about trying to get him on the show so we can have some fun.
You know what?
He had a party last year where there was strippers walking penguins around on leashes. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, when we first took, like, I was doing a bunch of my brother Trip was doing a bunch of good stuff down in Florida, and we got flown out when Advance first launched. Dude was like, "Hey man, the guys that we buy nutrients from want to fly us out to Vancouver. There's a new guy that wants to show us all his stuff, man." And Big Mike picked us up in like the yellow Hummer and all that stuff. You know, he had like a Viper. It was so showy and gross, man. And they showed us his warehouse, and I thought they were going to show us the manufacturing facility, which I was all going to be, you know, interested to see. And it was literally like they had a mixer there. That was, you know what I mean? It was like everything just came in and they just used a mixer. That was their big piece of equipment. And I don't know, it was just amazing because it's so much bullshit, man. But that was like, oh, dude, they had these big trucks also that said 2+ per light, guaranteed. And they would drive them all over town, man. It's so unbelievable.
People still believe that shit though. Like, I mean, a lot of people. Like, I just posted today, and some guys like, "Oh, well, you need to buy this and that, or it's never gonna produce." And you know,
Aren't they up to 4 light now?
It probably, man, because this was in like, I don't know. I think this was like 2000. He was, you know, whatever the launch was, early 2000s. He was already at 2. So when you're gonna load up bullshit, man, you know, I guess you can only go up from there. I don't know. It's just,
yes, I don't know, man.
it's just marketing. This is where marketing hits, hits cannabis, and people do want to believe. You know, a lot of people just want big buds, man.
Well, one thing I'll say is I've been to 3 big events where we had a booth across from Advanced
Right.
or near Advanced, and we ended up getting probably 5 times the amount of traffic, and we didn't have any giveaways or anything, and they were giving away free stuff and had girls with bikinis and all kinds of stuff on, and it was just like, yeah, well, the industry is kind of moving away from that. So
Yeah, you ain't kidding, man.
I mean, I guess I just don't understand when you can turn around the bottle over and it says 99% water, and people still buy it like it's like not water.
You know what it is, man? But people don't understand. They just want somebody else to do the thinking for them. Okay.
Well,
I can,
yep.
you know,
And that's
They
it in
wanna
a
mix
nutshell.
powder.
That's it in a nutshell. Just exactly what Scotty said. People don't want to think. They want to put this. They want the solution, and everything in life with modern day society is here now. I have this problem. I need to go out, purchase the solution, and apply the solution. That's what everyone's used to with everything in their life, and plants don't work that way. And that's something that can be frustrating for people that work in the industry, especially people that work with dealing to a lot of different growers and customers. There's a lot of people, because of society and other, on-demand society has made things so easy and so simple that not everything is that simple, and not everything, especially if you're trying to do it organically, is necessarily that quick or that simple.
Your mic is breaking up, Steve.
Yeah.
I can switch mics. Hold on.
Hey,
Yeah, just
Scotty.
suddenly, it just happened the last couple sentences, buddy.
Hey, Scotty.
yo,
I put on my sexy clothes just for you.
I love it, man.
Look at me, huh? Huh?
Now you're ready, brother. Now you're ready. Come on, man. We had a fucking great time, didn't we, man? Come on, we did. This guy knows how to party, man.
We don't do strippers, but we sometimes we get male plants, dude. Wow, look at it, ready to drop any second. Oh, that's pretty,
dangerous right there. That's dirty.
that's close, man. I don't know if we can release this video or not.
Look at the balls on that plant, you know.
So
Go ahead and-
give me 2 seconds just to finish this off, so I can switch back to my camera here. But we also use some
I
gas
think you still
backup.
got it.
You still-
Whatever's happening.
Your mic is funky, Steve.
Yes.
Something going wrong with your mic, Steve.
Oh, so we're having technical difficulties. So who's got something to share with us tonight since Steve's trying to fix his microphone?
I mean, you know, I could fucking talk, man. I just
Well, you can tell you're the guest, so
There
you
we go.
Bring it, Scotty. Bring it.
you know?
dude, I wanted to ask you.
Can you close the door up there so I don't his door so I don't get sound?
Oh, there you go, man. You clean, man. Clean.
You're back, Steve.
Oh shoot!
Hey, Steve,
Yeah, because you're not talking to us. It comes in fine. That's awesome.
No, that's fine. I forgot I have a little thumb mute button. Here, let me show you. I have a little thumb mute button, and I realize it does not work for that microphone.
All right. As long as you're
Well, it
right.
probably don't work for this microphone either, because when you were clicking it, we still heard you. So
Hey, Steve.
Now that I got, go ahead.
All right. All
Love
this.
that Roger Beard cam.
Yeah, nice. Looking good. What do you think about the sustainability of all this, man? The dude and I were talking a couple days ago, and he was bullshitting about how that's great that you can do all this, but not everybody's gonna dig wallopinis in their backyard. Not everybody even has yards, and there's 10 billion people to feed, you know, or we're gonna have 10 billion people to feed someday. And I was like, I don't know, man. What do you think about that, man? Do you think that you could sustain this with like community gardens and stuff if you had one of these on every block or something?
Yep, and let me tell you, I got 2 great examples. One, there's a gentleman in Hawaii who we're going to have on the show here probably in 3 weeks. His name is Chris Trump, and he is one of the leading experts
His name is
on
Chris Trump.
Yeah, and he's one of the leading experts on Korean natural farming.
No relation.
And no relation to the president.
What a bitch that's got to be the last couple of years, no?
Throwing that out there. No relation.
So he
Cool.
runs
Korean natural farming. Nice.
Yep. So he runs an 800-acre Korean natural farming style nut farm, tree nut farm.
800
Hawaii.
acres. That's like
Yep.
a couple miles, right?
Yep.
Wow.
So, and he produces more yield with nuts with Korean natural farming than he did with any of his stuff before. His costs are way less, and he's outperforming all of the salt farmers with using the same trees in his whole field on the island by a country mile.
Hey, if we were in an elevator and I asked you what Korean natural farming is, and we had like 22 floors, could you help me understand it, man?
Sure. So I guess the essence of Korean natural farming is that, so we all have experience
Hang on,
with
I forgot to press the button.
so we all have heard of active aerated compost teas, and I think we're all familiar with those, and we've all made some, and we've all used this, that, and the other. Well, the other half of to mineralization, and it's something that's become more potent and more, I guess, part of aquaponics, or at least the bleeding edge of aquaponic production, is offline anaerobic mineralization. And what we've been doing is combining some of that, not only by work like Nick Savadov, for example, which I have nothing to do with, but Nick Savadov is doing a lot of work with documenting anaerobic remineralization of fish waste in very specific types of containers. And if you're trying to learn a lot about that, definitely check him out. Not Korean natural farming, but same kind of thing. But traditionally, go ahead.
That's anaerobic remineralization. So I know fish have minerals in their poop. Is that right? And then we're using anaerobic bacteria to get them taken back up again. Is that what that means?
Yep. So remineralization is a process of taking your fish waste from your filters and then either doing active aerated compost teas or just brewing it basically and aerated, and then separating, shutting the aeration off to allow it to separate, and then siphoning off the clear mineral-rich water, which is traditionally mineralization in aquaponics. And then the other way to do is anaerobic, which is some of the advanced work that Nick Savadov is working with, where they take it and they put it in an anaerobic chamber where they seal all the air and they churn it or allow it to settle and ferment. And those microbes break down different minerals and create different things that are available just as importantly as the aerobic ones as far as processes, because you have different pockets. Even in nature, you'd have pockets of each in different zones. So that's why they're so important. The plant can kind of pick and choose in that kind of environment. We don't really allow that for kind of thing in our own soil network. So if we can take that and brew it, now I guess in traditional Korean natural farming, you'd have lactobacillus ferments, which are milk-based ferments, which is like milk, rice water, and molasses, or milk, rice water, sugar, or milk, rice water, whatever. You can add other things to it. And then you have your FPJ, which is fermented plant juice, which is specific plants like comfrey or dandelion or stinging nettle, or there's other kinds of plants you'd use. What's the silica one? Horsetail. That's another great one to use for ferments as well.
Really? You're talking the little one that comes up? It looks like a little like bamboo steak, kind of, just a straight little.
Yep, that's one. So it has a ton of salicylic acid. It's one of the most.
It looks like it. Shiny.
Yep. Yep. So it has one of the highest bioavailabilities of silica of anything that if you're going to use for ferments or compost teas, and is a great source for that.
Now, why don't you include the blackberry like we talk about all the time?
Well, blackberry can be really good. It's high in iron, so is raspberry, and so is strawberries. The one thing you do need to be mindful with silica is that you get it from a clean source for the horsetail, because horsetail also will accumulate heavy metals. So if you get it like downstream from a mine, it's not going to be too great. But you want to, if you can get it from a high mountain lake or someplace near your house that's nice and clean, that's great.
Wow, what a trip, man.
And can I clarify that when we cut up a blackberry plant, we get the silica from using the vine and the thorns as well, not the fruit. It's the vine, the green, the stems and all. See, so the fruit makes a ferment itself, but you can make a full mineral ferment with silica by using the entire, chopping all of it up.
Use those tips.
Chipping it up and then fermenting all the entire vine, the thorns, the whole thing, man.
Get those tips, though, man. Get those tips. That's where the power is. Poderoso.
Yep. That new growth has got those growth enzymes that you're after, and that's what a lot of the ferments do. Is they break down a lot of the lignins and a lot of those cell walls and allow those enzymes to be free floating and temporarily available, or like since we make the phycocyanin ferments, and we're dealing with and that's just one example. We have a whole bunch of other cool stuff. That's just one of the ones that we've identified. But if you combine that stuff with some other enzymes, you can get pretty psychotic plant growth, and you can get really good healing. You can have plants that can recover from pretty dramatic damage, depending on different conditions as well.
Right. Fucking A, nice, man. Dropping science, brother.
That's what I've been mostly focused on, is how different microbes, and thanks to some of the great work that Marty's done. I want to hats off to Marty. Marty was the first one to turn us on to the whole lactobacillus eating fish waste. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I ran across that in the Probiotic Farmers Alliance, or PFA, and a lot of people were getting into that and talking about it. So I tried it out, and the first time I did it, I sort of just left it for too long.
Right.
and I was like, well, which really wasn't a big deal, other than like the curd gets really big and the water evaporates out a little more and you get less fluid in the middle. But other than that, it really wasn't that big of a deal. But I threw the curd part in my worm bin, and it just went nuts. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And I took just the liquid itself, and I didn't really want to try to extract just the lacto oil out of it. It already kind of evaporated out, so it was like just a mixture as opposed to a serum. So all my labs are still mixed in with the water, basically, instead of having it just separated out where you take the oil in between. And so I took all of that and I poured it across the top, and it just like ate through everything on the worm bin so fast, including there was a filter from my aquaponics system was sitting on top of my worm bin, and some of it got on there, and they just ate everything off of it in like a week. And I was like, whoa. Like you could see everywhere that it was spilt on it, it was just eaten off. So I started adding that into my beds and noticed that if I keep adding it fairly regularly. I don't even really have to worry about a solids filter because I don't have like a high stocking density. I don't have very many fish. I just have, like a few koi and some goldfish per system. I don't have a whole lot. So basically I'm breaking like 90% of my solids down like right in my system. So filtration isn't nearly as big a deal now that I'm introducing microbes that are facultative, so they can be anaerobic or aerobic. They can exist in either one of them, in either environment. So especially in like a dual root zone system, they'll seek out areas that will start becoming anaerobic, reproduce in them, dominate them until they're gone, and really help keep root systems healthy. And I've had a lot of luck with even turning over my outdoor beds that get a lot of buildup in them and putting in a ton of like Bokashi bran in them and turning them over and just letting them eat the solids out right in place and then starting up again, so I don't have to clean them out nearly as often as I used to.
Wow, man. So, hey, so what kind of composting do? You do Bokashi, and then you do a traditional composting, and anything like teach me, brother.
Yeah, so I do all Bokashi and red worm bins. So I'll start in the kitchen where I have like a traditional Bokashi, bucket. It's not like the official one. It's just like a little 1 gallon bucket I throw.
Oh, it's not the official one?
It's not the official one, dude. It doesn't have the
forget
stamp
it.
on it.
Lord have mercy, not
Anybody have
official.
anything else?
Who could tolerate
And remember, folks, when Googling this, it's the Bokashi bucket, not the Bukaki bucket.
That's right.
Shit, dude. I gotta clear my cookies now, man.
Love it. Nice. Nice. Thank you for going there.
I think if you ferment both, though,
if
you ferment both, though, it'll make some good plant food either way.
I'm gonna throw up.
And before Marty gets back on a great thread of information, I wanted to say, who would have ever thought we'd be hearing somebody saying, "Oh, curdled milk"? It's so cool,
You're right, man. We're too old. If curdled milk's cool, you're too old.
Let me tell
Scotty, if I can, I got a question for Scotty. Scotty, do you know the man on the left of the field down here named Dutch?
Who's that? I can't tell.
That's me.
Josh?
This
Josh
Joshua.
from Dutch Blue.
Yes, dude, Joshua. What's up, brother?
We're at the conference last
excellent.
weekend, man.
You guys have to.
Of course, man.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent.
Yes. What's up, brother? How are you?
Because you guys, if you didn't know each other, you two need to know each other.
I actually went and visited him, man. When I went up to the Pacific Northwest, man, we fucking hung out. Hell yeah, dude.
Excellent.
Man,
Yeah, it was super fun.
if we're hijacking, that is the fucking best conference. I'm so jealous I didn't get to your conference, dude. That was fucking awesome, man. I can't believe you lined up all that talent, man. Huge respect for pushing it forward,
Absolutely. Hands off the best conference, and he's going to be hosting some more. I know you don't have dates yet, but I know you're doing some more events in the future. And best fucking conference, hands down.
The one I will drop, we don't have a date for it, but Camp with Elaine. We're going to do a 5-day winter camp next winter with Dr. Elaine.
Hey, is she cool? I'm kind of
she's cool.
Man.
She's
Okay,
cool. She was on the
Yeah.
podcast here a couple weeks ago when we were all in Humboldt, and the day before, or maybe it was that day, I can't remember. Leighton and I went to see the redwoods with her, and I got to tell you guys, that was one of the cooler experiences of my life. Just walking the redwoods and hearing her talk about the history of what was going on. She's seeing it, she's telling us, and it was like, it was pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
I loved listening to her talk. I missed the first part of the show because I didn't get the part of the starting early, but what I heard, and then I went back and listened to the show, and that was incredible. It's just so easy to comprehend what she explains. Thank you, Dr. Elaine. That was awesome for you to be here with us, and we can't wait to get you back. I tell you.
Yeah, and she's hanging out with her the few days that I did, because I didn't know her before this. I've just been, like I told her, listening to some hijack tapes I had from years ago, but she's super on it. She's on all of it. We talk about KNF, we talk about probiotic stuff. She's on it, and she's really cutting edge, and I'm super impressed with what she's doing.
What was it about the difference between soil that's bacterial dominant versus fungal dominant, and how it relates to CBD and THC?
Well, there's a little bit of stretching on that in terms of the conclusion, but essentially it's looking at succession, And where cannabis lies in succession, it lands in an under canopy, more fungally dominant base. And so therefore it's not a vegetable. We shouldn't be giving it a 50-50, which would be earlier on in succession. Is everyone following what I'm talking about? When I say succession of is if we started from desertification and we just let nothing happen, we'd start with the short shrubs and then we'd move into the taller trees. And somewhere in there, cannabis is right before, between the shrubs and the tall trees. It's in that under canopy. And so it's in that base where it's more fungally dominant base. And so as we start to change our soils to be more fungally dominant, we're experiencing higher ratios of cannabinoids. And we're not really sure if that's more CBD. My feeling is that it's just overall cannabinoids and overall plant health that's being
most
increased.
likely. If it's that great of a balance of nature and it's growing that great, it's probably got everything.
But to those that are unexperienced, they're saying, "Oh, it's got more of the CBDs." But to those of us who really know, more of the CBDs is just more of the plant coming out.
It's such
Mo tracks.
It makes sense. It's such a woody plant. Yeah.
And in our experience too with the aquaponics, we've done a bunch of side by sides, and I talk about this in my class. I'm working with a gentleman over in Kentucky State so that we can do a formal, actual peer reviewed white paper study on this, where aquaponics increases CBD and THCV in hemp. And in cannabis with aquaponics versus soil control. And we've replicated that at least 5 times. I'm now moving that over to academia so that someone else can help me shout it from the rooftops so that we're taken seriously. And that is something that we're actively researching right now.
You should rap with Leighton about that a little bit, because he's kind of working on a similar test.
Awesome.
So awesome. This is where the knowledge is being pushed from,
That's awesome, but do we have to say something now? We're talking with some extremely expert growers here. Yeah, can you mention the same thing like when we deal with people we're teaching on the forums and all? You have to know what you're doing. This technique, when you say you get more CBD and THC with aquaponics, means, but you have to know you do it, Steve, but not everybody will do it unless they learn the proper techniques and really go into it and get the aquaculture and the biology going along with aquaponics.
Okay. I mean,
what, Marty?
Dual root zone.
Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah.
No, I just feel like, you have to do it right. And that kind of, that's got to be anything. And I don't think you should go into it going, oh, well, if I can half-ass it and still make it, then that's a good thing. I don't think that's really what the drive or motivation should be around it. And I feel like sometimes it is. Like just today, I got into a discussion about somebody on one of my posts about this too, where they're just, talking up I feel like all of them are just talking to justify purchases that they've already made. And you sort of get tired of being like, look, I don't know what you bought or why you think it's the best ever, but I'm not flying to Michigan to smoke your weed. And I don't, I'm good,
Whose weed are we looking at? Is that Marty's weed we're looking at there?
It's beautiful, whoever it is.
Oh, that's beautiful. Good, nice work, dude.
He's doing a slideshow again. He's been doing a slideshow for us every once in a while lately.
Every time you see that, that's when I'm hitting the bong, just so you know. That's it's awesome.
It's a good point about people getting on board with products and then wanting to cheerlead for them and justify why they spent the money, why they're so smart hopping on the product, It really is a good point, man.
Yeah, and it's not about go ahead, Marty. We want to hear you. We hadn't heard from you in a while. I'm sorry.
No, and I feel like so much of the discussion gets hijacked around that, and I feel like it's important to, like Steve was saying, like they've replicated these things over and over again in a successful system, but that's where you want it tested. I don't want it tested in a half-ass system that doesn't work and see if you're still successful. Like, yes, you have to do it right, but aquaponics is one of those things we've talked about this before. If you're not doing it right, you're not going to be successful at it. It's
there are indicators.
Dependent,
it looked like a year
going to fall apart. Right. Your plants are not going to live long enough or be healthy enough for you to be able to tell. It happens that fast.
Right.
So that's why it's sort of like, well, if you got to the end, then okay. I don't know. Besides that, I feel like you have to have a healthy, balanced system to be able to grow cannabis specifically in aquaponics, way more so than like lettuce or vegetables or different things. And a lot of times it's because you just don't care about the yield. If you get a salad, you're cool. Like nobody is calculating grams per watt on how much lettuce you grow. Like you just don't care. Like even commercially, it's how many heads of lettuce do you get? A lot of times they're not measuring actual volume or weight. So cannabis is in that weird area. And what he's talking about, I feel like sort of plays into it too. Like you have to have a system that's aged enough to be able to do it. And that same succession line, even though we're doing it in aquaponics and try to speed it up as fast as we can, you still have to introduce microbes that are more advanced than if you just let a system age naturally. It would take much longer for those things to develop, as opposed to introducing more of them, whether you're doing it through teas or different things besides that. Like you have to have some more advanced microbiology in aquaponics than what you had if you just create a system from scratch. It would take much longer than if you introduced microbes through these things that we're talking about, like KNF, or any type of extracts, because obviously you have things besides KNF, like so a lot of terms you hear thrown around now, like especially Brain Grow talks about them a lot, are fermented plant juice and fermented plant extracts. So you have FPJ,
right,
and FPE. So that we talk about those a lot, and those are all great ways to introduce more advanced microbiology to a system. Whether it's new or not, just to make sure it's present.
Yeah, and isn't that creating an aquaculture? Isn't that what for the newer grow? Wouldn't that be considered that the whole point of the system being older is now you've created an aquaculture so that you've got the microbes and the algae or whatever that you might have in your systems and stuff. Yeah,
you kind of have to have them or the whole thing doesn't work. Your plants don't get food and your fish's water doesn't get clean and everything dies.
Well, I was just going to add in, like, I totally agree. And aquaponics is a lot more touchy than soil, and people get away with a lot of shit in soil that they shouldn't get away with. Really experienced growers that have been growing for 10, 20 years, shitty weed or mid-grade weed. And they don't even know. They've been making compost and making compost teas, and they can get away with a lot, where in aquaponics you can't. I've noticed the same stuff in both soil and in aquaponics, that 4 years into a system, whatever it is, that's when you're kicking ass.
And what tells you?
And one quick thing, Fish Ganj guy has to bow out, so he wanted to say bye real quick before he's got to run.
Hey, Fish.
Later, guys. Good seeing everybody.
Bye, Fish.
Hey,
Don't
good
talk
luck
so much next time, man.
What's up?
Good luck with your testing, brother.
Thank you. Later, guys.
Take it easy, brother.
All right, go ahead. Didn't mean to
Josh.
interrupt.
Hey, I got a quick
That's
question.
it. I'm done.
So what's the indicators when it starts going wrong? Do you see it in the fish tank, or you see it in the plants?
Leaves.
You'll see it in both. Well, it depends on what's going wrong, but
The fish
you'll see it in the fish. Yeah, well, the fish. It depends which nutrients.
It's not funny. Sorry.
But so like what Marty was saying is that as the system ages, it takes 6 to 8 months before a system is fully colonized with all the aquatic microbes that it's going to actually use. And that's some of the stuff that we're trying to speed up right now with a lot of the research that we're doing, is figuring out what microbes, or at least trying to figure out what microbes we can use to seed to speed shit up. So for instance, things like Mammoth P can be really good to speed up your phosphorus chelating and mineralizing capabilities of your system, and adding some recharge can help speed up your nitrification system and some of the other stuff, and adding a couple of these other microbial inoculants can really make a night and day difference in speeding that process up and saving you a lot of time.
So many of them.
Exactly, you're seeding those microbes, or even finding a local aquaponics farm that has those microbes and just grabbing some junk from their fish filter and putting it into your system, or grabbing some media from their system and putting it into your media, can really save you a lot of time and money in terms of speeding everything up just by seeding those microbes.
I was going to throw in too, like, I just got back with this thing again. Sorry to take over, but that's
go
what
for it.
Dr. Elaine was
Go for it.
teaching us with the
Good hanging,
microscope
brother.
class. Yeah, dude, you come on the show as a guest and you just ask questions. It's pretty funny. You're good at that. But no, that was the thing with her, with the microscope class was how to quantify. So what we do is we look at the plants and we see the plants doing this or that, and we make a judgment based upon that. And then we can further look into the soil and make, some decision or learn there. But what she was teaching us is that we can make live decisions on this and look at the microbes and make, counts, So she was teaching us how to quantify it on the microscope, where we could say there's this much bacteria, this much fungi, there's this much nematodes, all this other stuff that, I'm just at the beginning learning of this stuff. But
Hey, you need
that's
some
how
crazy
you can live
microscope for that?
You do, man, and I'm just learning how to identify. It's really hard. I think it's gonna I'm pretty slow to learn, so it's gonna take me a minute. But
yeah, why don't you?
It's kind of what I've been waiting for to learn that for like 8 years is how to really quantify what the biology is in there, and that's the work she's been doing, and it's really cool to link up because she's been working in the vegetable world. And where they don't care as much, they don't quantify as much, and we had these conversations. It was really fun to say, we have people that can taste. Hey, that was grown with seabird guano. That was grown with fish shit. There's growers out there that are their taste buds. They can quantify it. And she was like, "What?" I'm like, "Yes." So we need to, go ahead.
I just heard that, man. I was listening to Shango Los talk or something like that, and they were talking about that, how guano has a flavor. When everybody uses guanos, all of a sudden that's why the fucking everybody's weed tastes the same,
Right.
Yeah, no, remember how much different the smell was from, and that's something that we talked about recently with the classes, or one of the classes I was teaching this past weekend was strain extinction. Look at all the different strains, how some of the old long finishing strains that you guys and I all grew up with and really came to learn and love, and some of the funky sativas and some of the other cool stuff aren't even being grown anymore. When's the last time you smelled a good skunk #1? I don't remember the last time. Years ago. Just people aren't growing them. Anything that's a heavy smell, because the smell mitigation and smell ordinances is now not being grown. What terpenes are we losing with that? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're simply breeding out because of market reasons. That what are we losing genetically?
It's even the fact that a lot of people in less than legal states, they don't want the smell. It's not that, not about ordinances. They just go, I don't want to get busted. And, it's a sad because skunk #1 might be my favorite strain, but, I love that shit, but, and every hybrid I've ever had, but with it, that was from a reputable source was really nice and a beautiful plant, golden plant, it's just something, but, it's sad, but it's funny. It is, Steve, because I help run a seed bank, yeah, we get people that are always talking about they want to buy what doesn't smell. Exactly what Steve just said. People, the market's taking us away from those type. But yeah. Anyway, I yield. Yeah, I just wanted to follow Steve.
I also wanted to give a shout out to Scotty and Dude. You guys actually brought up a conspiracy that I helped kind of spawn the other day on the show regarding genetics. What about the autoflowers? How they could actually absolutely use the autoflower bottleneck to tax and get control over home production really easily, and it's something that we do need to look out for and make sure we're all maintaining seed banks.
No, give me the 30-second overview on that. You're saying if they only release autoflowers?
Yeah. So imagine a scenario where the federal government legalizes cannabis and only allows autoflowers for home grow.
That means you can't breed them, or you can't get seeds.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, because they could tax it and you'd have to buy them. They know how many plants you had.
Yep.
That would mean
they'd have complete control over everything.
Going back to
the tax man.
Doesn't that sound like
the sale here in Oregon? You have to track the whole thing.
Save your own seed, or you couldn't.
They could track the whole thing.
You can't save clones from autoflowers.
So this is why everyone needs to be wary of autoflowers, in my opinion.
I'd like to hear something. I know Marty wanted to say something, I heard, and I also want to hear from Mr. Green Jeans, who's a breeder, on this subject, if we could get him in there.
Yes, sir.
If it's all right. I mean, if it's all right with you guys. You know.
I'm on my third bowl. Everything's all right. I love hanging out. This is so much fun, guys.
But Marty and Mr. Green Jeans were trying to say something, and we kind of blew over.
Go ahead, Mr. Green Jeans, you first.
Take your mute button.
Are you there?
Well, Marty, what did you want to say? I'm sorry, Steve and Scotty and everybody.
What you get for being politically correct, man.
I was just trying to help out getting it because I knew these guys wanted to say something. Mr. Green Jeans is a breeder, so he said something about the autoflower.
Yeah, I
didn't
want to
really
hear
hear
what
it.
Jeans has to say, man.
I'd like
I'm
to
so
hear
psyched
that.
to see him, man. I'll never get. Yeah, come on.
You got to demute yourself. He's just taking pictures of. He's pretty. He's pretty. He said, "I'm so
Good-looking
pretty."
man. Hashtag good looking man right there.
Hashtag, what are you smoking out of, dude? What is that device?
This thing?
That's his new vaporizer.
Oh, this is the Plenty. The Stores and Bickle Plenty. It's like kind of like the same thing as from the guys that made the Volcano. It's like a handheld one that delivers just the same punch, man. It's really fucking solid.
How long a charge does that thing hold?
Dude, you got to be committed, man. You plug this thing into the wall.
You're so stealth with that. I didn't even notice.
You know, they have a battery operated one that I got. This is the Plenty, and you've got to put at least 1 gram in this thing. It's definitely just for growers, man. And then they've got, I love it. That's why I bought it. I'm like, for me, it's great.
How long does a gram last though in that?
About 15. It's almost like smoking a joint. This thing is.
Oh, really? It takes a gram. It just burns up 1 gram like that, huh?
Yeah,
Whoa.
but it smokes in
Bakes
10
up
15
1 gram.
minutes or so. But it tastes good,
Oh.
man. But then they got the small one. It's like the Mighty, I think. They got a couple really tiny ones. Yeah, man.
I could put flour in. That's my whole thing. Like,
that's what I'm saying, man. Flour. I dig it.
yeah, I'm not into the cartridges or like mixing shit up and like doing all that. You know, like I want to grow flour, shove it in something, and then see what it tastes like. You know what I mean? Like,
this is your best representation of that.
I have my Buddha vape hooked up to my bong here, and I love that. You know, like I love the flavor of vaping and all that. But I haven't found a handheld like I want one I can carry around and, you know, travel around with. That's not plug in, but you can have flour with. And
man, you ain't coming out
on one yet. I know they have one. They do that portable one. They have. It looks like that one, except for I think it's got a battery.
You know what?
I'm getting ready to buy a new vaporizer. I just haven't decided what to buy yet. You know?
I'll give you the inside track on this one. This is the only one that's got the really big bowl, though, which gives you a lot of flavor. You know, it's got more surface area to run air over. The other ones really are meant for being portable. They do work fairly well, but I don't know. I think I don't use my tiny one. I think it's called Mighty or something like that. I'd rather just take a vape pen out at that point. Just take 1 or 2 hits off the vape pen.
So have you showed that? Are you married?
Me? Yes,
Yeah.
I am. Yep.
Okay. Oh, okay. I won't ask you the question. I had a question for
Yeah,
you.
he was going to ask you on a date.
Do not let your wife see.
No, I was going to ask you. All right, since you
fun.
want to be smart asses, I'll ask Scotty. I don't mind because I was going to pull a Tommy J here and go. When your woman saw that, did she run or did her panties get wet? I mean. That's kind of wicked looking, you know. It's like if you brought a girl home and pulled that out, what would she do? Would she run?
Yeah,
her panties get wet, you know.
I wanted to give
depends what I was doing with it, you know.
Right?
Send all
Depends where it's going.
Marty at apmeds at hotmail.com, you know.
Yeah, he hasn't been around, so we're gonna use him for the. No, you're bad, Roger.
Hey,
It wasn't for Marty. If it wasn't for Marty, we wouldn't have this show in the beginning. Me and him did this show, just the two of us, for what was it? I think 25 episodes before we had a guest, Marty.
I don't know. It was a lot.
Something.
Hey,
yeah.
all I can say
I don't know
is-
how he put up with me for that long.
I finally got through the entire first show because let's face it, well, that was actually a 2-hour and 10-minute show, you know, but I enjoyed the entire thing. I keep telling people, don't listen to last week's show before you listen to anything else. If you want to know what Steve and Marty are talking about, you go listen to episode 1. Episode 1 tells you everything you need to know. I mean, pretty much, except for like, here's the part you need to buy. But as far as the ideal, it's
we've
awesome.
done like 5 shows over and over and over again. Like we just cycle them through, like we get different guests, but it's like the same 5 topics, and then we just start over again.
Well, I mean, it's a science.
Then
There's
you
only
get
so
cycles, then you get genetics, and like we just sort of, which is fun, and I think it's cool because we bring in different people to talk about the same stuff. So like lighting, for instance, we've had so many episodes about lighting, but we've had Black Dog, we've got Spectrum King, and we had Fish Ganja guys talk about it. So it's not like it is just one episode, but we did do the same topic over and over again, which is cool because we get so many different people who get to throw in on what they've done so far and what their friends do, and like it just sort of when we have so many guests, the panel grows to as big as it is now, and we have a different guest each time, and the guest gets to interact with the entire panel. Like, yeah, our show pushes to 4 hours long, but you get so much information dump at one time. It's cool and also hard to navigate because somebody asks, you're like, oh, like, did you guys talk about this with so-and-so? And you're like, yes, it's somewhere in this 4-hour video over here. You can get your one question.
I know exactly what you mean there, brother.
It's actually around more like 3 hours than 4. I mean, we've got close to 4 once, but we did after hour for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
We did some after hour. Last week we had a guy, Hogmaster told me, who's not here tonight, but Hogmaster told me last week, he goes, he messaged me a half hour after we all went, there was no show. I mean, after 2 weeks ago, he messaged me a half hour to an hour after the show and goes, "Yeah, dude, just logged on to talk there, buddy." Because we'd done the after hours, so we had a listener that was on the YouTube or whatever, on YouTube that was watching, and they logged on to talk to people afterwards. So Hogmaster talked to him for a little while, and because he just happened to have the thing open.
Hey, Marty, I gotta say something to you about your 5 shows. That's something that I greatly respect. I'm not a farmer like you guys. I'm just enamored with what you do. You guys are just like taking it to the next level, and it's that dedication to those 5 shows and the core of what's going on here on this podcast that you guys set the crucible for. That makes sense, bringing in all these different people, because there's a foundation that you guys have established, and we're saying, how can we take this scientist, or like some of the people that Dutch brings in? My God, that man knows the heat. Look at some of the people that Steve knows. He just knows people with letters before and after their name. But this podcast has never gone very far from the core principles that you're talking about, Marty. And that's why I'm still here. I'm just like, this is the place where no bullshit stuff's happening. We bullshit a lot, but that core that you guys have, don't ever change it, please. I'm asking.
Bullshit a lot about the same 5 things, which is great.
Yeah. And I'd love to bullshit,
which is cool.
I'd love to bullshit more about those autoflowers that we were getting into.
The threat of
Roger.
The threat of government takeover.
I mean, that's just a solid conspiracy there, man.
It is though, but think about it though. I mean, something they would totally try and pull though, for real.
Yeah, and that's how they do it too. They get you excited about something, and then they get you just to make bad decisions because you're excited about it. No, we get to grow our own weed, man. Who cares if it's just autos?
That's exactly what happened with Cali Amendment 64. Oh, man, let's all vote for legalization. Yeah, legalization's great, but this bill is fucking garbage, and they've totally screwed up the entire market. They've jacked up entire cities' economies. They've screwed up. I know. Look at Frenchie Cannoli, one of the most well-known cannabis producers in the country, is having problems getting a license in Oakland. What the fuck? Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? And
good guy too.
And great guy. And he's got a license since then. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him recently, but as of recently, even he's having problems. And this guy's a world-class guy. There's other people I know that are world-class people that immediately and this was back in January when I talked to him about this. But even a lot of these bigger name people are still having hard times just to get relicensed with shit they were doing legally a couple minutes ago, just before January. So this whole situation is totally jacked up. Them allowing stacked licenses for 10,000 square foot production is completely not what the bill was designed to do, which was support smaller growers and prevent any large grows until 2023. The whole bill has just been completely hot.
Are you saying by stacked license, you mean one guy's getting, or a corporation is getting several grow licenses to?
They're pulling
30 maximum. Yeah,
they're pulling 30 to 50.
Full vertical.
30 to 50 or more 10,000 square foot permits.
Right. That's what I just wanted to. Okay.
Which was not supposed to be allowed at all. It was supposed to be limited to 22,000 square feet. You're limited to 4 of those, which is a maximum of an acre, close to it anyway. Which was what they're allowing people, and they've totally screwed that up. They've jacked up and removed a bunch of the 215 protections. They've allowed townships and cities to regulate medical marijuana production. They've allowed all kinds of stuff that should have never been allowed to happen. They included a hemp as part of the regulation bill, and just a whole slew of things. So it's just an example of why you can't blindly vote for legalization. You need to fight for no local ordinances. Local control needs to be banned. We've seen time and time again where they cannot be trusted. They totally jack everything up. We've been jerked around. We're supposed to have at one of the cities we've been with, we're supposed to have a license the end of last year. We're now looking at probably November or December of this year before we'll actually have one in that city. And so I'm supposed to pay rent for an extra year with no income? That's insane.
And
no other
insurance.
business has to and insurance and security and 1,000 other things that and that's something I want to do an episode sometime in the next couple weeks when we have the right guest on starting a cannabis business. People do not realize how hard it is and how much stuff, how much money in lawyers,
right,
how all the different crazy shit that you have to do, how much time you have to spend with city council people, how much time, just all the crazy stuff that you normally just don't even know or even exists in the cannabis industry just to simply even get to open. And there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize, expense wise especially. You're looking at 2,500 to 250 to 300K just in licensing, lawyer fees, and everything else just to get set up. And that's not accounting a single piece of property or equipment and everything else, and people don't even realize that.
Yeah, we touched on that a few times.
People are getting those licenses based on money, and we're in a corporate position where we're dancing with the money, but the experts who need to be laying the groundwork are being thrown under the bus because somebody else says, oh, I can deliver you 2,000 votes in the next city council. And that's the problem is, people like on this panel and people on this panel who know other people, like, you think about Dutch and all his connections, those folks that have the real dirt, they have the real research, and they have the real on the ground experience. They're not being invited to the table because somebody who can pick up 50 different EINs and is greasing the wheels is setting the agenda. And it's a shame because you guys got so much to bring and you're not even being heard.
And not only that, but it's not just about greasing the wheels in that way. The politicians in the counties and the towns are able to supersede state law. At any given time, there's an electrical, a regime change. That's the problem.
That's what happened to us.
There is that the state law means diddly squat if a town or a county decides we're not going to have it, and that is different than I think what it was meant to be. Also, and I'm not out there. Of course, I'm in prison.
Well,
when
we actually don't have that in Washington. The state will issue a license anywhere, despite what the local jurisdiction says.
My problem is
they can close down stores like in Colorado. You live in Colorado, right? There's places where Fort Smith or Fort something, they had all these cannabis, and they did, like Steve said, it was 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. It's $1 million to even open a pharmacy. We've talked about this a few times, touched on it. But what happen is then the guy gets a new mayor gets voted in, and then they go to a city council, and the people say we don't want a cannabis thing. And after somebody spent $1 million voting up, they shut them down.
Or the bullshit that happened to us. Let me tell you a story that happened to us in one of the cities that we were involved in. Is that we were going to every single cannabis city council meeting. We were every single one for a year, right? Every single one. And you know what these people did? They went to every other city council meeting except for the cannabis ones and complained about cannabis, so that we had no idea it was going on and nobody in the cannabis industry was doing it. So if you're a cannabis person, as shitty as it is, you have to go to every single thing. And when they have the open sessions, go out and tell them why they need to have this. Make sure there's other people from the community going out and telling them why they need to have cannabis legalized in your spot, on not just the nights that you have those cannabis meetings, but also the nights they don't have the cannabis meetings. And make sure that you're controlling the message on those, because that really came back. You know, we had the whole industry lined up together, working together, coordinating. Everything was great. And then here, the day of the vote, there's like 900 busted people. Half the people don't even actually live in the county, and or even in the town, better yet, the county. And they're going to tell me, we had one family that was 10 different people from the same family, the 10 reasons not to. Half of them weren't even over 18. They don't have why are they allowed at the city council meeting to have a say? They're not 18. That's not even legal.
Millions. Millions.
Literally. So that's not even legal. Okay. They're underage. They cannot be part of the public comment. So again, why are they there? Because of politics. So this is the kind of crap that we have to put up with in the cannabis industry that nobody else has to deal with. But this is the kind of underhanded, slimy stuff that these people are going to do to try and prevent us from just doing business. And this is the kind of stuff that you have to be prepared for and you have to handle. And this is like, there's so much crap and so much ridiculous stuff. That's why I tell people my job is professional cat herder. Because my job is putting out fires and herding cats, and that is my whole job of getting a cannabis company off the ground, is putting out fire and herding cats.
Well, how do you grow weed with cats, man?
Their shit is awesome, and if you mineralize their shit, and then you take it and you roll it through the cat litter,
perfect.
Not only do you have not high nutrients, but you have the most tasty almond roca you've ever seen.
Remind me not to smoke your weed.
It's like the Labrador, man. You know?
I love it. Hey, dude, Steve, you're so right, though, man.
And I'm fine.
Oh, Steve, how the fuck do you go talk to an investor and tell them that? Or when they come back and handle those objections from an investor, when you're just like, yo, hey, what's the market like? What's it going to be like next year? What kind of stability do we have?
How do you feel about that?
Grudge fuck.
Yeah, so basically you just try to lock down every variable that you can account for, and you can't. I mean, there's certain things. I love, one of my favorite questions is when an investor asks me, so what's banking like? And it's like, yeah, exactly. You just usually burst into laughing. Thankfully, in California, there's actually 3 banks I can actually deal with. There's also a couple of banking institutions that will act as a middleman for you that are legally operating. One of the other things I'd love to talk about for a second, since we're on this topic, is a lot of people don't realize that you have no deductions that you can do for your tax stuff and everything else. Zero for a cannabis company. So what everyone does is they have everything that touches the cannabis is the cannabis company. Hold on. Everything that touches the cannabis is the cannabis company. Everything else, the employees, the supplies, the packaging, the rent, everything else is the management company. And the management company doesn't deal at all with cannabis. It just deals with the supplies and the employees. And then you can write everything off. And that's something else a lot of people don't know about the cannabis industry. That is, like, if you have a cannabis business, you have a management company. It's automatic. It's part of the whole structure. You cannot have a business without one. that's just how the entire business runs. Every single cannabis company out there has one, and it's something that if you don't work in the industry, you wouldn't even know that it exists. But this is done all the time with many other industries, often with big offices and other things. They often have management companies. You know, this is nothing that's untoward, or even not done in other agriculture stuff. So, but this is just stuff that if you again, but a lot of people don't even realize that. But then trying to structure that, and it's one more piece of the puzzle that when you're trying to launch and try to apply for applications and licensing and employees and taxes and securities exchange and all 10,000 other things you got to figure about.
Scotty, you were just asking about how do you go to investors. Now, I'm a lab bitch, okay? I'm not a grower like you guys. I work in a different section. I'm just in love with what you guys do. But I have the people who are dealing with the investors, and they're coming to me and they're asking me for numbers. And I'm like, I don't know about you, but if Scotty, I love you anyway, but just say you were one of my investors coming to me and you say, I got $1 million. I am to watch your money as if my children owned it. And I'm supposed to answer to these people. I'm in the middle of filling out SOPs and prospectuses and everything. And I'm having a hard time approaching them like, you're going to give me money and I want to give you numbers. And I have to tell these people the only thing I got going on is that I can give you numbers based on black market. If you're a real investor and I'm taking your money, that's the only thing I can say.
Yikes.
And that's horrible because I know the heart of all the people that are here. We want to give you the real stuff, but the investors are asking, like you're saying, Scotty, they're asking for other stuff. And I just don't see the real people that are putting the points on the board willing to lie to the investors. What do you think about that, Scotty?
I don't know. I don't have any investors.
I don't either. Yeah.
Steve, what do you think about
how to get investors?
Yeah,
well, just as far as how investment works in the industry now, or
no, I'm just thinking in general as far as trying to grow a real business. I've got a business. I grew real growers from the ground up. My first order was like $20,000 that I financed with a credit card. You know what I mean? And I built it from there. So I didn't have to take big loans and stuff. But if I was trying, I had dreams of going into cannabis business and going, being, a legal cannabis producer when I first came out here. And I just couldn't justify the cost, and I couldn't get an investor to say yes. I couldn't go and say, I know what the price is going to be next year or even in 6 months.
And that's something that's extremely hard to say and volatile, but thankfully there is a lot of people. Thankfully, I mean, the risk of tooting my own horn, I myself have been through. This is the 4th time I've gone through a legalization in a state now where I've been working with the company hand in hand through it, and giving them real life projections. And after the 4th time, we were spot on with what we thought the market price was going to be. So there are a lot of people now, not myself, not even just myself, but lots of other people now that have been through this routine enough times to actually give you good information and give you a good prediction. No one's going to be 100%, but a lot of us have been through this now where we've seen how everything behaves, and it's why it's really funny to me too. Like, I went to where was I at? The one in Anaheim. What was the one in Anaheim we went to, Tommy?
It was the kind of a cannabis meeting where all the men had that little shark hair thing, and they all had suits on. I'm like, bitch, you've never been near a grow. It was one of those things, and everybody was business, but nobody was dirty. Nobody knew how to do it, but they were all going to be players. It was insane.
And I watched the speaker on stage with a straight face tell me he was going to get 2,500 to 3K a pound post legalization. Now, all of us here on the panel can understand how hysterical that was, because I know some of the best growers in all of California, people that are on YouTube and High Times and shit every day, and none of them are even getting that now in Cali. So to hear this guy go out and tell me all day long he's going to get that, this guy doesn't, like, there's so many people that are bankrolling on stuff, and there's a lot of investors that have bankrolled in businesses that are banking on $2,000 a pound, $1,500 a pound, $1,000 a pound. That's completely not realistic for where this market's going to settle down at. And some of their projections and performance they've thrown out there are just laughable. Like I've seen 3 performers from other companies and just almost fell out of my chair.
But is the idea to have a viable company, or is the idea to take a whole bunch of money from investors, live really large, go to a strip club every night, eat steaks, and go out of business?
Well, there's a lot, and a lot of there's a lot of
nutrients.
And there's a lot of company. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are treating this like the .com bubble and just turning and burning. They're pumping up stuff. They're pump and dump. Same exact shit we went through. As an IT guy, this really looks the same. A lot of cases is the stuff we went through with the web stuff, and I'm sure Marty, you speak to that too. You went through the exact same thing.
Fully, yeah.
Yeah, Marty and I both did.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, almost the same thing. Like all the way, even if you copy and paste all of that you just said, even all the way back to legalization onto Oregon, that's what already happened. Like, you can even go back and watch the podcast where we said, they're like, oh, look, this is probably not going to be good. They're going to do all the same stuff that they did in Oregon and see it all taken over and squashed and pushed out, and taxes and like all that stuff you've seen happen all the way down to the seed to sale tracking. Like they want you to track every plant that you have from the time that you crack the seed or you accept the clone. You have to track it all the way through.
Yes.
Well, that's what we said too a bunch of times. If Marlboro owned cannabis, it'd be legal across the country.
So that kind of ties in with what Steve was saying too about how, you know, like you could very easily transition that into requiring auto flowers and that seed to sale tracking. Like, you know, it's only legal if it's a particular genetics, and we can test for it. And if you basically legalizing genetics or illegalizing genetics, however you want to look at it, that's a glass half full, half empty scenario there, I suppose.
Marty, but you know what I got to say about that? I want to inject something real quick. Is what I got to say is there's still going to be a shitload of seeds, billions of seeds out there. And if they do that, we're going to be just right back where we're at right now, where we're all going to grow pot anyway.
Yeah, you're just going to be right back to the black.
Screw your autoflower crap. We're going to grow our seeds, right, Mr. Green Jeans? We got seeds. We've got seeds.
Right. And that'll always be true. And they'll just be
open source
then as they are now. I think that's kind of my point, is that they will, you know, they'll be able to make it a genetic war, which usually that term doesn't really go over really well. And I don't think it will in this particular case
thing. I suck as a grower. Anybody here can prove that. And so, like, the only reason I had decent plants finally for market is I would plant or cut
hanging out with
5
Steve
times the clones I needed because I sucked. Now, this whole seed to sale thing is fine for guys like you, but for guys like me coming up, I blow at this, man. And I am throwing out stuff every week. Just
they don't want you growing.
That strong girl is going to save my ass, not my skills. And this whole seed to sale thing, I'm like, I'm just trying to come up. What are you asking me to do? I don't know enough to do that.
Yeah, and I think you definitely see that too, as like in the marketplace itself. If you walk into a dispensary right now, your options are relatively limited, and none of them are really that great. It's not, you know, it's not the craft market that it has been for a decade, like over a decade in California and Oregon both. You know, with the losing the ability to be able to essentially overgrow our state and be able to provide free medicine to all of our patients. When we lost that ability, it forces all of those people to go to a dispensary. You have patients that can't find growers. You have growers that can't take on patients. You have people who used to be able to produce enough for themselves and their aunt that had cancer and 6 patients besides that, and sell a little bit extra to the dispensary and buy a jet ski or whatever stupid they wanted to do with it.
Yes.
you know, whatever. I don't care. You know, like they turn a little profit to buy enough soil to do the, you know, the whole thing over again, or whatever they did with it is their business. But the point was, we had the ability to overgrow our state, essentially, provide for all of our patients, make a little bit of money. And when all of that evaporated, now you have everybody going to the dispensary. You have a lot of people that are regulated by city and county regulations. You can't grow outside. You can't grow inside. Your neighbor can't smell it. You can't, you know, you have to own the property. You know, there are so many things that are disproportionate in terms of in income inequality. Like if you just want to start there, like not being able to own your own house and grow your own stuff in your backyard, like probably the people that need to do that the most are people that are living in an apartment.
I got to ask you something. If you lived in a house and rented it from a guy, could he give you permission to grow?
Sure, he could.
He could. Okay, so there is a way. So as long as your landlord's amenable, you could actually grow even if you didn't own a house, as long as he gave you permission.
But just having all these rules and regulations to follow, it's ridiculous, man. I mean, it's something you should just be allowed to grow in. I mean, they've got these simple 4x4 tents. Your landlord wants to come in and look, I respected you enough not to make holes in your wall. I got a 4x4 tent. I'm paying my rent, and you know, everybody's happy.
For an exhaust system.
Yeah, I was cool like that, man. You should be saying thank you to me, man.
Well, a lot of times what you get is like they might let you do it, but they'll all of a sudden your rent will go up. Be like, oh, well.
That's what I mean. Getting gouged like that. You know, I wouldn't like it. You can't gouge somebody if your rent goes up because they find out that you're, you know, black or something like that, right? That's completely illegal, right?
Well, and it just happens here all the time, and it's part of the reason I think why, why regulations are not being put in place to like protect people. They're being put in place to protect interests. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to extort people who want to grow a plant. Like you would think, as a person who is in charge of putting out regulations, you'd go, oh well, maybe that's something we should look into. But they've been completely ignoring it for years now. So anytime you want to rent from somebody and be able to grow there, expect to pay much higher rent than if you weren't growing there at all.
Man, expect to be discriminated against because you want to grow cannabis, because you want to grow your own medicine. It's crazy.
Yeah. Or maybe you'd get lucky with a landlord to be real happy to get the highest quality meds he ever had in his life.
You could get lucky. Damn straight there. I like the way you're thinking, brother.
You could. It sucks that you like have to win the lottery to be able to do that. I mean, obviously there's plenty of people that do. There are that would allow you to do it. There are plenty of people in that bunch that would attempt to profit off of you doing it, and there's probably some of them that'll just let you do it because they would want to do the same thing. So I definitely think that there's a spectrum of people out there, but especially in rural areas, like down here in Southern Oregon, you know, like we got a pretty heavy population of people that would not, you know, that would evict you for trying to do it, or not rent to you at all if you asked to. And it's unfortunate, but you know, what are you going to do? It's part of having a free country.
Yeah, and it's part of this whole diffusion as well. We've got to go and you know, be the good tenants where the landlord scratches his head and goes, I don't know. I caught the guy growing weed and I kicked him out, but he was the best tenant I ever had. And now this new guy sucks. You know what I mean? And he scratches his head and goes, maybe I won't kick the next guy I catch growing weed out, you know?
Yeah.
It's gonna take a bit of time for that to diffuse.
Right. And I agree with that. There's got to be some natural consequences involved. I just think that if we are going to implement regulations, like why not something that, like why not at least look at something like that, at extortion, basically, as opposed to whether or not my neighbor can smell it. You know, like I don't get what appears to be like disproportional attention to, you know, something that seems like such a ridiculous problem to have, like whether or not I can smell my neighbor's plants.
Sure, but I get it.
In a free country, it doesn't seem like they would be overly concerned about. So to me, it seems like it's more about protecting interests and controlling who can grow, as opposed to whether or not you actually smell the plants next door.
Yeah, if we all start growing our own stuff, our own food, our own cannabis, nobody makes any money. I don't think there's any politician that is interested in seeing everybody have a little home grow where they're all growing 6 plants and growing their own great medicine, because that makes them no money. What people give a shit about, the politicians give a shit about, is new revenue streams. We're going to have new stores open up, and we're going to have a new regulation body that's going to keep people employed. And all these things, and we're going to bring, tax revenue in, and we're going to, people are going to be spending money on this stuff. And I don't think that's what cannabis is all about. Cannabis is about growing some plants in your yard and jarring it up. I'm looking at my summer harvest that's here, and and enjoying it for a long time. It stores well.
Right. I'm with you there. Like, I want to, I have my own jars. They last me till the next time I harvest, and
right.
That's pretty much
what it's about. Money. That don't get nobody reelected. That doesn't give any. We're not going to donate our growing our 6 plants or 12 plants. We're not going to donate to any political campaigns to, have a new shopping center built or whatever. And that's the kind of shit that makes the world go around, unfortunately.
Right. I think that, like, they want their cut, and they take it everywhere in cannabis, right? Like, they take it from the growers, and then once you get it to the dispensary, they take it at the dispensary again. Like, I don't think people realize how much of a tax it actually is. Like, we talk about, they complain about the corporate tax rate and how high it is right now, or was, I guess, however you want to look at it, whatever part of the debate you're on. But you start talking about that tax rate, and that's a solid 20% lower than your average cannabis tax rate. And by the time you look at, especially if you have was it Grants Pass here, just north of us. So you have a city tax and a county tax and a state tax. So by the time you're all done, like, you're paying more taxes than money than you put in your pocket.
Yeah, but we get weed at the store, man.
Right. And
when that shit wears off, man, you realize how much you're paying for weed at the store, and that your buddy actually used to show up at your house with great fucking weed. All of a sudden, you don't go back to the dispensary anymore, man.
Yeah, the nostalgia wears off, and once that's gone, and you realize, as a consumer, you still have other options because you pushed all the craft market into the black market, so it's just rejuvenated again.
Yep.
Dispensaries are like a novelty, in any area. People, they get into it in the beginning, and then the whole thing, sort of tapers off after a while.
I agree. I do agree. Hey guys, man, I actually have to bail, man. I got to put my kid to bed.
I feel you, man.
It was fucking awesome hanging out, man. I really enjoyed hanging out with everybody, man. A great conversation over here.
Thanks for calling. Tell everybody how to find you, and plug the cup one more time.
Oh yeah, it's the DGC Cup. It's 4/14, which is in a couple of weeks, man. April 14th in Denver over at Cultivated Synergy. It's just going to be a really fun time, man. A bunch of friends hanging out, judging, talking about each other's weed, hopefully learning something. A whole bunch of people have given prizes out. Yeah, right on with the show. I love it, man. But yeah, it's going to be a great time. If you guys want to go, dgccup@gmail.com. That's how you get invited. And I am. Well, yeah, do the Dude Grows show every morning. Was that Dude Grows into your phone is what I tell people on YouTube or over on your podcast app, whatever. Real Growers. Yeah, if you guys want soil biology, man, learn something about soil biology. If you shit, this crowd's gotta know. Nobody's tuning in and don't know nothing about soil biology in this crowd. But yeah, and thanks, Green Jeans, for the shout outs, man. Those have been really awesome, man. I appreciate the hell out of you, brother. Yeah. But anyway, realgrowers.com, and I think I said enough, man. I'm a conversation hog.
Enjoy the hell out of it, brother.
Yeah, it was really good hanging out, Roger. It really was, man. I hope I see you guys soon.
You kicked.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, basically.
Dude, we're gonna talk Wallapini, man.
Hell yeah.
Definitely. You're gonna put your signature on it, man.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Night. Marty also had to run. His channel's AP Meds. You can look him up on YouTube. I think he's got a Patreon as well.
And to Marty at AP Meds.
Yep, at Gmail.
Any problem with this show, you send it to Marty.
Yep. He does all the complaints.
At harddrive.com. Yeah.
So what have you been up to, Roger, in your garden?
I'm getting ready to. I've been talking about it for a couple months, but it's time. We're finally getting into where it's warm enough. I'm getting ready to go out there and retake my greenhouse back from the blackberry bushes, and get that fermented. I've been saving up trim, and I'm getting ready to do some pruning, and I'm going to try to get some cocoa oil going, for the first time. I just haven't really had enough to do, make it worth my while to spend 10 days to make something, so I've been kind of waiting on that because I had last yield was kind of short because I had to, I had to take it short, because of certain things being in a situation that I've got. But I'll tell you what bugged me today. I started some things, and I went over there today, and I had, as usual, my seeds popped in 2 to 3 days, and I went over there tonight when the lights came on, and a damn fly had eaten the top off my orange bud and my frickin' Agent Orange. So I got 3. I just was shitting, man. I looked down and said, wow, it popped. It's like an inch tall, and there's no fucking coatal there. There's nothing. There's no husk. There's nothing. I said, what the hell? I said, oh, I know what happened. Some little moth fly or some little damn fly got in here. Something flew around and ate the shit out of it. I said, yeah. Then later, here's the thing. Here's the worst part. So I go back 3 hours later. I look around. I spray inside. I try to make sure if there's any little fly, I'm going to drown that son bitch. I put it back under my dome. I go back in there later. The second plant, they ate the freaking coral then off. So yeah, that was a bummer today. So, but at least it'll only take 2 or 3 more days to pop another seed. So, and other than that, just getting well, Marty would appreciate this, but he left. The county is up my butt now, because I've had my partner hasn't helped me out very much the last year and a half, and so I've got the county up my butt now, and I've got facing violations if I don't go and rectify some things, which basically means I've got to go out and build about 200 feet of fence so they can't see the yard, with my stuff. Because they don't realize it's a farm, and it is a farm and all, but they don't look at it like that. They see stuff around in a farm and a garden, and they don't look at it like that. And I'm like, well, we're getting ready to prep. This is a garden. They go, well, you got debris laying around. There's a bunch of potting stuff and pot stuff and just stuff, that you have laying around on my outdoor experimental gardens, my no dig grow beds and stuff. We're just getting ready. That's basically all I'm doing, keeping up with ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, best I can. My staff is great. I see Hogmaster came and left. He's been real helpful. He's moving over here next to me. I'm 6 hours away from, well, I'll let him tell you later on when he gets around. I think I just found a damn bug that's eating my plants flying around right here. Let me see. I'm going to kill it. So anyway, I don't know. I'm just rambling on. I'm tired. I actually turned my life this morning, so I'm kind of, for a change, instead of getting up at 2, I got up at 8:30 this morning, and I'm tired. I'm kind of getting on farm hours now. I'm getting out of winter hours into farm hours. So that's what I'm doing.
How you doing, Hogmaster? On that note,
there he is.
I'm doing good, buddy. Moving and trying to get my grow done before I move. So
you gonna do like an 8-day cycle? Just speed them up.
Actually, I got a little bit of time, so I'll have plenty of time to let everything go. I actually had 3 finish on me already, and I still got about that much left. So
nice.
I got a little ways to go, but
you can always, if you're ever in that kind of situation, you gotta speed them up. You can always do like an 8 hours on, 12 hours off, because the plants can only tell how long the hours are off, not on. So you can do that and then end up getting 8 days out of the light cycle that way. It's called an 8-day light cycle.
Yeah, they got a little extra treat whenever I was out of town. One of the cats got in and stepped on button for the lights, and luckily I had somebody to turn that button back on, but they were off for about 24 hours solid.
Well, that's good. Well, that's not bad.
Puffed them up quite a bit.
Good.
Puffed them up quite
That's
a bit.
interesting.
So
You touched on that 812, but I'm not going to go in there. Go ahead. I'm sorry, David. Go ahead.
but no, everything's been going great. I got probably 3-4 weeks left on everything here, and should hopefully get at least a pound or so. That'll last me until I get moved and get going again.
Nice. Looks good.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, I tell you what, too. I saw pictures of where he's moving, and if I don't know, I saw one picture. If that's where he got from his house, he's overlooking a giant lake. You know,
Nice.
Freaking awesome. Yeah. The location he's got there, man. It's just,
Right.
Oh yeah,
Do some
I
natural-
might take a road trip up there.
Natural aquaponics. See if I can get some kind of pump run up.
Well,
to a
Steve
bear.
has something to say about that, running water out of a lake. That'd be interesting if we can extend the
You
show a
can,
little bit.
but you have to pump it out and put it into a closed loop. You wouldn't want it pass through. You're going to lose the nutrients. Straight from the lake's not going to have much nutrients. And then you have no control over biological agents or contaminants,
Right.
so it can be pretty
Right.
wild. Plus, you can bring in like seasonal insects and other things. I know one pond we had mayfly problems and like some other weird
Larvae.
stuff that we had. Actually, in Arizona, I've had 3 customers that had this weird stonefly larva that would come and make these these little like glued together sand things, but they would produce them all inside little like housing structures, but they produce them all inside the pumps and the plumbing, and they'd seal the plumbing on all like 1 even 2-inch plumbing. They'd seal the whole thing up with their little structures when these things would come in and breed and lay their eggs. Like this desert insect out in Arizona lays its larval eggs in the water, and they hatch and create these they're like stonefly larvae or something, and it's a nightmare. And it's one of the handful of things where I was just probably the only thing I've ever threw my hands up and went, I don't know how to deal with that. Short of throwing screening up over your aquaponics system, you know, if you had it in thrip screening and a hoop house with thrip screening, you could get away with it, or some insect screening. But that's about it.
Maybe.
Well,
Even with trip screen, I'm not sure, you know, because they might just be all hatching up in there too. They might not, they can't
That's
get
good
through
to know.
maybe, but they'll hatch and crawl out of there though, maybe. I don't know, because trip screen's a screen with some like poly backing on it. So you put it on your fans when you suck in the air for your greenhouse to ventilate it, the bugs don't get sucked in with everything else. It kind of stops the bugs, but I could see it being a breeding ground for something you don't want to, you know. I don't know.
Thrip screening is great just for keeping the bugs out. If you can,
Yeah.
and even if you're in the desert, you know, throw a hoop over it and just throw insect screening on it just to keep the bugs off, because you will get freak seasonal stuff that is just a bitch to deal with.
Well, that's
So
good to
David,
know.
now what about this, Steve? I'm gonna go proactive for David here, but he could probably harvest some tiny fish and minnows and stuff from the lake and adapt them and use them for aquaponics to build his own pond, couldn't he? Instead of buying them.
You could. It depends if it's legal in your area and what species you're doing, and you know, whatever. But yes, you absolutely could. Gambusia,
Oh
which
God, I
are
don't think about
mosquito
legal.
or mosquitoes,
walking-
mosquito fish and Gambusia is a great option.
And
Kinda cold
Gambusia, what
they're
is that?
basically a cold tolerant guppy, but they love
And the
the
Latin
insect
name,
larvae.
is that what you were doing?
Gambusia is the common name.
Oh,
I have
okay.
a collection of them that I collect. We have them along the coast here in
Yep, they're
Southern
wild.
California.
Yep.
Yeah,
Cool.
they're wild.
So that's what I was thinking. You know, you walk down to the edge of the lake, you got a lake there, and you scoop up some fish and you adapt them to a pond and build a thing. That's what I was thinking. But
So the state
I didn't think that you could actually, that could be illegal. That just blows my freaking mind. You know?
at Ouroboros, actually, the state of California requires us to keep mosquito fish in all of our raft systems in order to prevent mosquitoes, because it's a standing body of water. And even though they're circulating water, they consider it a standing body of water for whatever reason. So we actually have to have mosquito fish in all of our raft systems, at least for this particular township
I
and
love that
county.
y'all use raft systems out there too. So when I get rebuilt and get some aquaponics going, I'll be able to get the raft systems, get some guidance from my friends.
It's a 50%. Well, Ouroboros is around. Well, Ouroboros I think is around 60% raft beds and 40% media beds, something around there. I don't want to don't quote me exactly. We'll get Ken on sometime again soon and tell everybody. But basically what that allows you to do is the media beds allow you to get a much more mineralization. You know, he's getting mineralization of fish feed of around 8 to 12 grams of fish feed per square meter of production space for plant material, which is well below the 40 to 60, which is what UVI was at. Which is the basis for the model that the farm was based on. So by combining that extra remineralization from that media bed allows you to get a lot more remineralization along with the offline remineralization. You hybridize the two and you can get extremely low feed rates for your fish. Even with, you know, he's a ton of trout right now. You know, he's doing all kinds of cool trout. I know we had some trout sushi the other day. That was really, really good. I don't know if you want to speak on that, Tommy. You're a chef.
Yeah, what I can tell you, like I was a chef, but like I'm just somebody who liked good food, like everybody else on the panel. This was silly delicious. These fish like put up a crazy fight, you know, when they were going to the dinner table. But like I grew up, you know, fly fishing in New York in the reservoirs and the streams and, you know, just some clean ass fish. These fish were like Godzilla on Tokyo. Talk about strong. And they're being grown in the aquaponic system that you guys are, you know, advocating. And as a chef, I'll tell you, they are at least 10 times cleaner than anything you'd find out of the lake or anything you'd find out of the stream. You knew what went into the fish. And if you had some of this sushi, and like when I'm talking sushi, the chef cut the trout up and put the beating heart on the table. And there was a fight over who got to eat it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was banging. And you know, it's awesome, you know, all the things that are like natural and whatever, but the requirements that are upon the aquaponics growers, it's so far beyond organic. And it yields a fish or a plant. As a chef, you can't find that anywhere. You just can't.
You need to, I want to build and see, I'd like to have a place like that with a greenhouse out back, with a restaurant up front, with a greenhouse out back where you got the fish and the vegetables all and brought them in fresh every day out of the greenhouse. That's been my dream, is to have a restaurant that you get everything that you've served in the restaurant came out that you produced behind the restaurant.
It was living 10 minutes before it was on your plate.
Yeah, but that's neat. I knew you were going to say cut them up, because when you said they were kicking, I said, yep, they clean them fish live right there and cooked them. You can't get any better than that. And that's, I love to hear that, because that's what I want to do, is raise fish to eat as well as be able to have vegetables, you know, and make and grow a lot of vegetables and all. And I've got the infrastructure to do it. It's just well, I have to build it, but I've got the parts. I've got the greenhouse parts and a lot of different things that I have to build. In fact, I'm getting ready to build a 24 by 30 this week. I've got a necessity to do it. First for storage, and as soon as I address some issues and do some buildings, I'm going to be opening up an aquaponics. I'm going to do at least, if not that, I'm going to split my greenhouse, my 30 by 48 greenhouse, into half aquaponics. I'm gonna go ahead and get the fish in there and get it all. Whatever I have to do to make a safe place and make it cool enough, keep the temperatures right. No, I might even put the fish in their own little building inside the greenhouse. I'm not sure. I'll have to talk to Steve on the sly on the phone or something, if I can ever get him out of corporate meetings and, you know, teaching classes and stuff.
He's been busy. I watch him. The man's like, he doesn't burn the candle at both ends. He takes the candle, he cuts it into 4 pieces, and then he lights each end of those little 4 pieces. The man's insane.
You're preaching to the choir. That's me too. I don't sleep for whatever, and then I get tired and I sleep, and then I get up and I don't have. I've been so upside down. I've been getting up at 3 and 4 in the morning, weird shit like that, sleeping, different times of the day. But yeah, Steve's going more like he's going. I'm sitting there, I'm here on a piece of land, and he's traveling all over, and I tell you what, it's really been impressive. The difference in since you started this company and what you put, you guys have all put together, and now it's bringing you together with all these, like people have mentioned it tonight, all these great. We're getting people with PhD behind their name and stuff, on the show, and that's just a testament to Marty and Steve and what they built. And in less than 2 years, we've got some of the foremost experts in the world on a show, and they seem to love it when they come on the show, and I think that's just fantastic to be a part of.
Yep, and we have some cool guests coming up. Tentatively next week, we'll have Dr. Faust from BioAg. He did Cyto Plus. He's also a fulvic acid and humic acid expert, along with tannin expert, and a whole bunch of other plant proteins and enzyme experts. So if you have anything in particular to auxins or cytokines or phycocyanins or anything really technical, he's a great guy. So hopefully he'll be joining us next week. I have a couple other people lined up in case he can't, but tentatively he'll be joining us next week. And then the week after, I tentatively have lined up Dr. James Ricosi, the original godfather of aquaponics, the guy that's founded UVI's program, the original aquaponic guy. So that's going to be really awesome to have him on, and a really awesome episode. So that'll be on the 12th of March, I think it is. Or April, whatever these months are. And then we have Chris Trump, I think, is going to be joining us the week after that. We're trying to work out a date with Susan Wright to have her on. That'll be Susan Wright Evans. She's the insect expert, so we're working on that. We also have a gentleman who Tommy and I'm going to just mention him real quick. We affectionately call him Cowboy. We met him at the conference in Humboldt. Tommy, why don't you explain a little bit about everybody about Cowboy?
This guy, just so you know, like everybody here is pretty much cannabis centric, and then secondarily there are just people who are dedicated to the aquaponics. This is a hardcore cowboy. Like, remember the old Marlboro commercials? This guy starred in them. Just imagine that, okay? And he is as straight lace as can be. And I watched, and he's going to be brilliant on the show because I watched him talk to Steve, this long-haired Rasta hippie, and this man put everything about pride aside and recognized the heart and intelligence that people like Steve, and not just Steve, there were other people at the event that had letters before and after their name. But here's what he's going to bring. He's going to tell you how a 4-generational farmer in the middle of Iowa who has nobody who has hair any longer than I do came to a conference and listened to a crazy Rasta because the information that's being brought forward here, and Steve and we lost Dutch on the show, they are sending their top people from major farms, and we're talking hundreds of heads of cattle. They are changing their techniques based on what you guys are talking about here, and the humbleness of the man and his willingness to say, there's nobody in my town that would give you 10 minutes of the day. Yet I'm here and I'm sending everybody in my company here. Okay, it didn't quite bring me to tears, but to see that and to see the impact of the integrity of what we're doing literally impact hundreds of acres. moving it to this sustainable model, moving it to preserving the water, moving it to like, how do we leave something for our great grandchildren? When he gets on here, you better hold your heart in your throat, because otherwise you're going to tear up. And just a fucking bitchin' guy. He's just cool.
Yep.
But
So
yeah, that's going to be a great show.
So he's switching to all natural forms, KNF, compost tea, all kinds of things like that for his huge herd of cattle. There's thousands and thousands of acres, and they have water trucks with the sprayers on the back, and they're just driving around the fields, and they're seeding beneficial microbes. They're seeding compost teas in it, and they found that the grass is growing better. The fertility of the cows has gone up. They're able to raise more cows on a smaller area of land because the production of the grass and the plants is better. Like they're saving costs left and right now. It took a couple of years for it to get over the hump, and especially coming off of the nutrient salts. But they made that decision. They decided they're going to stick with it, and now it's really paying off. And it was really cool to see this guy who has zero interest in growing cannabis. He has never seen a cannabis plant before that weekend, I'm sure. But and he even said, he opened up, he did a short talk, and he was like, if you had told me 6 months ago I'd be coming here to a weed conference, I would have told you were freaking crazy. But he got turned, and I don't remember what he said, how he got turned on to it, but he got turned on to it by some kind of organic thing that led him to the cannabis guy, and suddenly he realized there was all these guys that actually knew what they were talking about and knew how to save them money on what they're doing. And not only that, do it right and do right to the land that they're working on. Even though they're doing soil and not aquaponics, it was great to hear the whole probiotic. We're still in alliance with the probiotic growing, whether or not they do soil or aquaponics, and that's something where I'm kind of leaning towards changing a little bit of the direction of the show, is moving it more towards sustainable growing and including some of the soil guys more and bringing them on board a little bit more, and trying to make that more inclusive and just making this more of a sustainable show and not just the aquaponics.
For you to do that, Steve, because so many people are hardcore aquaponics, and for you to take your show and allow me on the show, which not being an aquaponics expert, and allow me to learn and go through this cycle with you, and then you talking about that, because frankly, you've had a bunch of people that are talking about soil microbiology and stuff lately. So I mean, you've already done it. You've already done what you're talking about. You're going to do. You've already been doing it. I mean, because Dr. Elaine and them, they're not really aquaponics. They're soil organic soil growers and stuff. And the fact that you've allowed the show to evolve, I think that's the biggest tribute to your legacy that you're building here, because you're not limited. You're not giving anybody tunnel vision. You're allowing the whole scope of all growers, and I've already learned, and I've brought up many times, that aquaponics, that things that I've learned from you can be used in soil. They can be used in hydroponics. I mean, there's just so much that because I even think, I'm not going to go into that. I'll just keep it easy. But that's what I'm getting at there. That's what I appreciate more. And the listeners, we're growing, more and more. I think David probably has more of a handle on that, because he talks to more of the guys in the chat room and the forum, about people that are catching on to the show. And we actually have some people that are watching it. And I think it's pretty cool, because I think if it was just aquaponics, they would get bored, kind of. Not that it's not interesting to me or everybody on the panel, but listeners, when you give them the opportunity to hear about how they grow already, and you give them information that they go, wow, a ferment? Really? I could do a ferment? And, then now, I'm like Mr. Organic,
I'm glad you brought that up. Let me finish answering Scotty's question real quick on that note. So what is some of the other things for Korean natural farming, if you're still listening, an hour or two later after the original question, also includes kombuchas, kefirs, all your different ferments. There's people doing kimchi's, nutrient kimchi's, like you name it, any kind of ferment. Think broadly. These are all different microbes that we cultivate, that we know how to cultivate, that we have lots of documentation for. Take them, use different ingredients, and see what comes out. You'd be surprised at some of the interesting things that come out when you do A plus B equals C. And that we all need to work together to document all of these different combinations so we can, put them online, let everyone know what does what, and try to crowdsource some of this stuff so we can figure out what grows best. And that's what a lot of these awesome soil growers are doing, is documenting a lot of that. But we can apply a lot of that to the aquaponics. Just like we talked about earlier with the lactobacillus being a great way to get rid of sludge in your media beds and underneath your raft systems. If I'm just a commercial, say I'm just a plain Jane lettuce producer and I'm listening to the show, what am I getting out of this? So out of that conversation, I can take that lactobacillus, put it in my raft system, in my DWC, even if I'm doing organic hydro, even regular hydro. As long as I'm not running antimicrobials, I can pour this in the system. Not only will it hunt down and kill Pythium, which is root rot, it'll also eliminate the sludge and the other metabolites and other debris that would then become food for the Pythium or root rot, that would then allow it to become colonized and populated to the point where it's now a problem to the plant's health. And that's the biggest key to, that sludge that builds up with a lot of aquaponic growers have problems with fish waste that ends up in their bottom of the raft systems. Dose it with lactobacillus ferment and it will chew it up and remineralize it and get rid of it. Not 100%, but it'll get rid of the bulk of it.
Yeah, that's a major hint, though. That's a major freaking hint.
Not nuking.
I mean,
not poison, and that's what you guys do.
And not only that, University of Kentucky State showed that increased fish growth by 15%. So not only are you helping increase the system health, you're eliminating anaerobic zones, you're making the system cleaner, you're improving plant health, you're also making your fish grow faster. So it's a win-win all the way around for any aquaponic user, be it lettuce users, tomato growers, pepper growers, or cannabis growers. And this is the reason why I want to start making this more inclusive as far as making it more sustainable production. This is stuff that works for soil growers for a vegetable garden at home, and for the aquaponic cannabis and everything I do with work and stuff like that. So this is the reason why I think we need to be more inclusive on both ends and try to bring in some of our brothers and sisters from the soil side to come talk to us and give us their wisdom and jam out on some of the stuff that we know. They were talking about earlier about how changing up the microbes. Yeah, so they were talking earlier about how it's changing up the microbes and trying to document the change in microbes changes the cannabinoids in the system. We started doing that with some of the aquaponic systems a while ago, but we didn't have that kind of level of understanding on the level of dominance. But we know that the added soil microbial dominance increases THC levels to the point where we're happy. Now, because thanks to Elaine Ingram, we now know it's because of that mycorrhizal layer is far more dependent than we even realized with the dual root zone by allowing it to have a place to it. Now she gave science to that, which is what's freaking awesome about this, and thankfully the soil scientists, now we can back that up with actual science rather than now, when someone says, oh, dual root zone, that's totally, magic and it doesn't do anything. Actually, here's the actual science to it, and here's why it works, and here's why it's important to this particular crop. But if it's important to cannabis to increase THC, we've also seen how it increases capsaicin levels in pepper, and we've seen how it increases other levels in other crops. So, we're starting to see how it is really important to certain flavonoids, terpenes, cannabinoids, and other flavor compounds, or other essential oils can actually be really cranked up with certain aquaponic practices and certain ways that we can modify the aquaponic process and really crank out some of these different compounds without getting overly specific and screwing up some of my IP. I got to be careful with some of the stuff I'm talking about.
Let me say something real
but this
quick.
allows you, and we've talked about this on the show a couple of times, particularly in regards to CBD and THCV, but this is the stuff that that we've had a chance to do a lot of documentation on, and we're continuing to do, but it's a really infant science, and trying to figure out which food webs, be it microbial and aquatic or terrestrial, will give you the best plant growth and the best mineralization for a given nutrient. And that's really what we all as a community, both soil, aquatic, and organic hydro, all three of us need to work together to document all that, and then we can all pick and choose and trade that data to make all of our plants grow better and make better compost teas and better ferments, regardless of what our grow medium is.
And less chemicals.
With less chemicals and less inputs.
Right.
Yes.
And here's what's really interesting about the science. And well, first I wanted to say that I was going to say, remember about after the lights go out is what I wanted to talk about. But then you said about, and the reason why it's so important that you expand the show is because of you doing what's made aquaponics so viable is the dual root zone, is what my opinion is. The dual root zone that you guys add. I mean, for lettuce and stuff, I would see just regular aquaponics, right? I mean, just fish water for the most part. But if you want to grow fruit, you got to have the dual root zone so you can add the amendments to the top layer. And so that's where the soil, having these expert organic soil people, it's the same thing. That's how you're going to learn to get that that top zone, that soil zone, so incredibly to learn, because none of us know everything. And the other thing I was going to say is what's so great about the idea of the fish and what you're teaching, no matter what, you could, if the lights go out, if the electric goes away and there's no computers and you've got a farm, an aquaponics farm, you'll be able to get by. You'll have to refit it, you'll make it, so you can provide water manually or however you have to. Maybe you got, well, if you got solar, well, or wind power, you'll be set, but it's a sustainable culture if the lights go out. A lot of growing, and so is soil, but again, where are you going to get your fertilizer and all that, so in the end, and if you have aquaponics or an aquaculture on your land, you'll be able to do your soil, you'll be able to take care of your soil too, if you wanted to, put something in the ground or do a soil. But that's what I find most important about this, and you spreading it out and universalizing your show, making it a universal growing show instead of just merely a aquaponic show, which is, I think, like Marty said tonight, you've talked about it all 5 times. You've already put out all the aquaponics information, that you've got to date, and you keep learning. And the fact that you're willing to, well, hey, when you got people the caliber you got coming on, are you going to say, well, I don't want to talk about soil? Wait a minute. Dr. Elaine wants to talk about soil.
So one of the things I wanted to reiterate that she brought up was how the mycorrhizae, she did some studies on how the mycorrhizae with the dual root zone stuff was allowed to colonize and actually travel down the root system into the aquatic layer, and how they were finding live mycorrhizae in the aquatic layer. And so that's huge, where that doesn't happen in DWC and it doesn't happen in straight media beds. So again, going back to the differences between dual root zone and stuff, and this is the reason why Kentucky State right now is currently doing a study with dual root zones with I believe tomatoes and peppers. Just cool. As far as dual root zone versus media beds versus DWC, to see which one's the best. And
I'm getting ready to do that.
And that's a system that Charlie Schultz actually built. If you guys are curious, he's been on the show before. He'll be on the show again. I did also want to mention real quick, thanks to Dutch Blooms for the amazing conference he's putting on. I think we might try to jointly put on an aquaponic version here in the next couple, maybe in June or July. We're kicking around some ideas, more details coming soon, and with some of those speakers as well, and some new ones. We have a couple other cool things going on, yeah. There's something else I was going to mention too with Elaine, and I lost my train of thought there for a second.
Sorry, I just found that fly, I think, because it's flying around like bumping off my screen in circles, like going like this. And I just think I got the fly that, or whatever flying insect is eating my plants. So maybe I can sprout a couple more.
There you go. Mr. Green Jeans, we haven't heard from you yet today. Do you want to tell us what you've been up to?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I've just been, running the press and stuff. That's been really fun. It's really interesting. Like all the different genetics is amazing. How different things come out, different temperatures and things like that. And it's quite a learning curve. Still really trying to figure it out.
Nice. That's nice.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? Yeah, I've been getting a lot of traffic at my website thanks to this wonderful podcast. It's been really fantastic. And so, and I wanted to say, if anybody's, inquiring about cherry bomb, the place to get that is from Swami. If you know Swami seeds, he's got those for me. And he's got them with my blessing. He's the guy that's carrying on cherry bomb. Speaking of open source genetics, folks, overgrow. Yeah.
Swami's cool. I actually wrote him to try and come get him on the show. I've hung out with him a couple of different events. I'm trying to get him on.
As a matter of fact, I'm since I've been back on IC Mag and I've been chatting a little bit with Gypsy, and I asked him if he would come on. And he's had a recent, ordeal. He was in jail in the Philippines for 2.5 years, and had this thing at Boston Logan Airport or something like that, some kind of indictment from Maine or whatever. So anyway, he's had some legal troubles, but he narrowly escaped that. I know, and there was some article about him in the Guardian. I should know. I'm sorry. I should know better.
Yeah, I
than
was
that.
going to say he's probably thrilled just sharing that with everybody.
No, he's in the. It's common knowledge. Everybody all over the UK knows it. I don't know why we're not talking about it more. But yeah, so I asked him if he would come on, and maybe he will. Boom.
That'd be cool. Which one is that, brother?
Oh, I don't know. One of my associates was calling it Oreo Blizz. Speaking of THCV, oh boy. Oh my gosh.
Which is the one that we were talking about that you said would be very fruity and sweet? Do you have which one was that? Can you
geez, I don't know.
We talked a couple weeks ago about that. Well, was it after the last show or
I don't know. Geez, I don't remember. Yeah. But anyway, so, and I've also got a Reddit. I opened I got a Reddit subreddit now, Green Jeans, so you can talk to me on there. A couple of, group breeding programs going on there. It's pretty cool.
Nice. We also have Aquaponic Chronic. Yes, on
Reddit as well. And
you guys are aware. I'm the moderator of that, just so everyone's aware if you guys have a problem.
Yeah. So
is Mr. Green Jeans.
Yeah. Hey, Reddit. Yes, Reddit. And yeah. So this podcast has been really a gas. I mean, I'm really glad to be a part of it. And Tommy, your recipe, your infused oil recipe, the family. You can't believe I have a big Filipino family. This is another thing I have in common with Gypsy. I'm only a few years older than him, I think. And he looks kind of like me, even I've seen in pictures. And so and the Filipino family, they've taken to some of these infused oil, treatments like just fish to water. I mean, it's fantastic. I make a topical with the leftover pucks after I press it, and after I press the rosin, and you can make a nice topical with the isopropyl, and oh my gosh, I didn't believe that cannabis had such a strong analgesic effect, like directly on the skin, that it had the ability to literally kill pain on contact on the spot. I didn't realize that was a real thing until now. Now I'm a believer. Another thing was my son. We were down by the beach, and he got a kind of a rash from playing in the ocean. We have this is San Clemente. It's notorious. All the surfers will tell you, don't go in the ocean after the rains, and that's what we did. And so it was after the rains, and he had this rash on his lower back, and we put calamine lotion on it for a day or day and a half, and nothing was really going on, and we washed that off, and I put some of the infused oil on there, and oh my God, it cleared it up immediately. Like in 4 hours, it stopped, pussing, and in about 8 hours, it was just about completely healed, and you couldn't even see it anymore. After a whole day and a half of the calamine lotion basically not working at all. So these kinds of things. I mean, I had no idea. My adventure in medicine. All these years I'm aware of the general medical benefits of cannabis, and I'm sure it's helped me, a zillion times over as well. But I didn't realize about these things like topical. And another thing, I've been eating the rosin, eating drops of it infused in the oil every morning and in the evening, and it's not a sedative effect. It's a very stimulating effect. Of course, I've just been eating the one strain, and I think that the strains are all very different. But I have a feeling it might be because I'm doing the low temperature pressing, and I don't think it's decarboxylated. I think you have to cook it. I think it's still kind of in a raw state, and maybe the raw THC along with the other terpenes and everything is kind of stimulating, because in the evening I try thinking recreationally, and I tried a couple times 5, 8, 10 drops or whatever of the concentration that I made, and it kept me up. I ended up staying up late at 1:30, 2 o'clock, and working, doing all this music and stuff, and having a great time.
Mr. Greenby, something that happens to me is I spend so much time in pain that just being relieved from the pain is a stimulant.
That could be. Yeah. Could be it. I don't notice. I'm not feeling. Maybe I'm medicated to that level, anyways. But that's a very good possibility, because it just is when you eat small amounts of whole plant extract cannabis on a regular basis, you feel in a good kind of a great mood all the time. You don't necessarily feel high, so to speak, but you're
there.
Right.
You're there.
You feel good. Yeah.
But leaving the pain with the cocoa oil and all that, I can see definitely when you're constantly in pain, it just wears you down physically and mentally. I go through it with my back and hips, and there's just times where you just go, oh, if it would just stop hurting. And this is like Tommy told us when he first told us about it, he said, this isn't anything that I made up. I just read, or him and his son, they read things. They come up with ideas that have been used for thousands of years, and then put it to a modern, into a modern perspective. And like I said, and I've said, I love that you said you're being topical, analgesic and all. My old lady hates my guts, and I gave her some. She rubbed it on her foot. That kills her whole life since she was a kid, and she told me it worked. So it must really work.
It actually penetrates into your joints, and it will literally work against something like arthritis. The two of the ants will definitely testify, for sure.
It lubricates you.
It apparently goes in and lubrictes the joints.
When you take a tablespoon,
who would believe it?
Tommy, why don't you tell them about? Tommy, why don't you tell them about your experiences with using it for different lubrication applications?
No, wait a minute. Let me finish first then.
That's what he said.
I had a teaspoon, and it did, like you said, lubricate. You could immediately, I took the teaspoon, and you could immediately feel it. It's like it just took my whole body, looked like it just got oiled down. You know, I mean, and immediately, I mean, you feel it, and I yield to, well, you know, whatever excitement Tommy's going to provide us now with all his ideas
I
of how
can't
to
wait.
lubricate yourself.
Look at that shit-eating grin on his face.
Just on note, you know, if everybody does remember, I was a contractor for most of my life, so I beat the shit out of myself. I carried things up ladders. I worked on roofs. I built foundations, all that kind of stuff. That's hard work. You might as well be in the NFL. It's just about as hard. And being married to an OBGYN, which is basically a baby catcher, as a guy, I know more about women's plumbing than most guys should know.
Baby catcher.
And when you're in my age group, I'm just about to turn 60. Things change down there. And for women, for more than just being a lubricant, these molecules, if we put them in that coconut oil based, and just like, let's say they lubricated that area 10 to 15 minutes before you're about to get busy with it, women can wind up totally wanting you, totally wanting to get jiggy with it. It just fucking hurts. And these molecules introduced to that area, gentlemen, you get the playground back again. And she's more than happy to share it. And that's a good product right there, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's kind of like I said about eating a teaspoon. It's the same thing. Get rid of a teaspoon of it, you know.
So
a teaspoon in a Coca-Cola, and
there are hormonal changes, and these molecules can literally relax the wall of the vagina to where it has more of its elasticity, and it feels more hormonally like the women were when they're younger. Specifically, what that means is that intercourse is not a pain. They normally look at us as a pain anyway. Anything we can do to remove pain, they're happy, we're happy. And and speaking with my wife, you know, I'm my ex-wife, this is so important to women, and it's a gentle subject that you have to approach. But you know, if you're there having a coconut slow infused thing, and Roger knows, everybody kind of knows about it here now. At some point, if we have to go over it again, we will. But from a doctor, she has not seen anything that can help her clients enjoy their mate like a simple cannabis infusion that any of us can make in the oven or in a sous vide setup. Third grade coloring book, simple, totally utilize the molecules, and it works on your, like Roger's talking about, you know, his woman's not on his case because he's fixing her feet. If you fix some other stuff, they get even more friendly.
She's not letting me touch the other stuff, though, so that's a done deal. I've got to go find a new woman. You know.
Yep. Here's a jug of friendly juice right here.
Ooh,
yeah,
dude.
We go. Yep. Yep.
Dude.
Now, I wanted to touch on since we brought that up again, since we're back on the coconut oil, David, Tommy, Steve, whoever wants to address this, I wanted to bring up, isn't it better to have this, to do this with dried? Now, I know you're doing the pucks, and you're not necessarily pressing the pucks dry, the flour. Sometimes you're doing it fresh, sometimes it's dry. But if you're infusing it into coconut oil, would you not want to infuse the chlorophyll? Or I mean, it's about the chlorophyll. All right, so
no. So you'd never press material that's right off the plant. You could bubble hash it right off the plant day of it.
Okay.
That would be fine. You could absolutely bubble hash it. In fact, Brain Grows actually talked all about his work with fresh bubble hash, and it got me to start doing it actually with fresh bubble hash. You know, cut the plant off and immediately make it in a bubble, and that's really awesome, and it tastes really good. But if I go and I press that, I get all kinds of water. I get anthocyanins. I'll get chlorophylls. I get all kinds of stuff that tastes nasty.
Okay, so that's what I was asking about.
But I'm glad you're bringing that up. Is that I want to get that plant material, ideally, if I'm just pressing it, 40 to 60% humidity, because that will get me the best flow rate out of the plant material, but have enough reduction that I won't pull that chlorophyll and the rest of the plant juice and the rest of the crap. And then I can go ahead and cure that after the fact and get a little bit more of the moisture out for another 2 weeks or so after I have that resin. And again, cure it the same way you would bud. Put it in some paper, put it in a jar, and then burp it, put it in something that's going to absorb some of that humidity and treat it just like that, and then put it out to sale, or hit it, or whatever. But give it another week or two to cure after you do it. Ideally 2 weeks, in my opinion. Some people will say longer, but I think about 2 weeks it stabilizes.
But
what I was getting at with the question I had, let me finish.
And different levels of chlorophyll for topical, for ingestion, for putting it on your body, for the vag juice like we're talking about. Those that extra chlorophyll, that extra moisture doesn't matter to the slow process of using the already polar saturated fat of coconut oil. It is unbelievably forgiving. Whatever source material you put into the coconut oil and slow process it, it's so forgiving, it's ridiculous. That's why I always suggest it for people that are in very controlled states. They have very limited source material that they can do with. There's virtually nothing you can do wrong, whether it's a puck, whether it's fresh material, whether it's old dried material. Coconut oil for topicals and for internal is the most forgiving and the most chemically advantageous carrier you would want to do that stuff in. So that's a direct answer to your question.
Okay, so that is the basic. Thank you, and that's probably one of the most direct answers you've ever given. I like that. That you that was straight, because you did answer it. So because I wondered about that. I got thinking about that the other day. I said, we always talk about, like, if there's a carcinogen or something and we're infusing it, it's going to be in there, right? So if it's chlorophyll, we don't want to intake chlorophyll. That was my question, and you said I'm talking about ingesting the coconut oil to eat it.
You eat chlorophyll in your broccoli all the time. It doesn't matter.
All right.
Broccoli
Perfect
chlorophyll
example.
or marijuana chlorophyll, if you're eating it or rubbing it on your body. Smoking it is a different animal.
Right.
But we're talking
Smoking's
about
bad.
Coconut oil is really all those molecules in your body. And like Mr. Green Jeans was talking about, he's got all those Filipino friends. One thing I know, if you have a good skin cream for Filipinos, the line starts around the corner. Oh my God. They are insane for loving their skin stuff. I just love that crowd.
Awesome. That's
it has an amazing, a waxy kind of feel to it. The concentrate left over from after you pressing after you've pressed the chips, and soaking them in isopropyl alcohol. It's very waxy almost. It's really,
You might want to use ethanol instead of isopropyl. Isopropyl.
Wish.
Yes. Can you please?
It's just a little harder to purge. You might find a little more ease using ethanol, just in general.
Tell me, why don't you?
That's why we're topically.
Why don't you explain the difference between the isopropyls and the ethanol, and how the polarity is affected, and then how that also applies to CO2, and how CO2 is not as good because of that same kind of reason. Because I would love to. A lot of people don't understand that, and you understand that well and can explain it well, and I'd love to have you explain that to everyone.
So alcohols are alcohols. There's multiple kinds of alcohols, and one of the things about isopropyl alcohol compared to ethanol, which is your drinking alcohol, is you can't drink isopropyl. And people are stupid around marijuana, so you want to be careful with them. So you're always safer using ethanol. It's harder to purge the isopropyl, and there are some things that are added generally to isopropyl so that you don't drink it, so that you don't have the winos going down to CVS pharmacy and grabbing the isopropyl and trying to feed their animal. So there's some stuff in isopropyl that's a little extra to worry about. It's not a problem topically, but if you are going to take the same stuff and maybe talk about lubricating vaginally, like we were talking about, or maybe taking the same product and somebody's a cancer patient and you're going to introduce it as a suppository, the extra stuff that's in isopropyl alcohol becomes a hindrance at that point. So if you're going to use isopropyl, it's brilliant. It works perfectly. You want to go to the extra steps of purging. You're going to want to have vacuum chambers and different stuff like that, which is fine. It works brilliantly. Just make sure you pay attention to what you're doing. But if you're somebody who doesn't have all the equipment, you simply cannot go wrong with ethanol alcohol. They're very similar molecules. They do the same kind of stuff. They have very similar polarities. But ethanol will just give you much more versatility. In fact, you can reduce the ethanol stuff down to something that you would consume. The thing about, if we were mentioning CO2, CO2 is an absolutely stellar, brilliant solvent for certain things. There's many medicinals, different things you're going to get out of fruits and flavorings and things for fragrances, where CO2 is the baddest ass girl on the block. The problem with the group of molecules that we're most interested in cannabis is CO2 does not have a liquid state. It has a solid state, think about dry ice, and then it has CO2 in the air. You are forcing the liquid state. The reason you're forcing the liquid state is because a liquid state is the most efficient use of concentrated molecules to get the things out of there. So specifically, the only problem for cannabis with CO2 is in order to control the temperature, because 1 degree difference, one simple degree can completely change the polarity of CO2. So rather than getting the terpenes and some of these CBDs and THCs, THCVs, CBNs, you change that polarity and you are crazy drawing waxes and lipids out in preference to the molecules we're seeking. If you're going to do efficient CO2 extraction, it's possible. The price tag to start is around $300,000. And you need a serious nerd to be running it, and your SOPs, your standard operating procedures, are intense. It's a viable method when done properly, but for most people, Jesus, just don't even go there. You can deal with something as simple as a good coconut oil, and you can be third grade coloring book simple, and it's still going to come out even if you do it wrong. So I'm not saying anything against CO2. It has its place, but for most people who don't have the chemistry background or the controls or about $300,000 of equipment, it's not. I'm suggesting it's not your path. Is that fair enough?
Yep. I just wanted you to explain the whole polarity thing and how that worked and how that affected things. A lot of people are confused on it, and we've never had a good explanation on it. So I don't know if you want to explain on that a little bit more, but
There's something I wanted to ask because you were talking, like you just brought it up, the polarity thing. You described the different three parts, but what is the explanation of polarity?
Oh, sure. There are apps you can go get on your phone if you're weird like I am, that will show you where the available covalent bonds are on different molecules. And you can kind of play with that and think about that stuff. But polarity, let's just boil it down, third grade coloring book simple. Imagine a magnet. It has a positive side and a negative side. All the things that are in the marijuana plant have a positive or a negative propensity. They're more likely to attract to one side of the magnet or the other. So you're trying to find solvents. So like, let's take ethanol. Ethanol is a great solvent, but simply by having 5% water in it, so like what would be Everclear at 190 proof, the difference between 190 proof ethanol and honest to God 200 proof ethanol, dude, I can't eat. I would spend hours explaining it to you. Basically, it would come down to the positive or negative side of the magnet is so much stronger in 200 proof alcohol than it is in 190 proof. So the molecules in marijuana have a certain polarity, and you want to match your solvent for seeking the things you want, because let's say you're seeking positive polarity stuff, the negative side of the magnet is going to ignore the fats and the lipids. It's going to ignore the chlorophyll. So that's where the art of extraction comes in and understanding the chemistry of it. And I'm sorry, it's kind of complicated, but just thinking about it in terms of magnets might help you understand. And if you don't want to go into all the bullshit, coconut oil is the saturated fat. It has the proper polarity for what we're after. And it's going to take longer, but without you knowing everything, for just making your medicine the easiest thing that you can do. And out of everything I make, my belief is it's my most potent medicine that I make out of everything I have available. And the company affords me some pretty nice toys. And even without all those nice toys, my belief is that cannabis in the coconut oil, you just can't go wrong. You just can't.
That's awesome. And see that what you were saying, or it was really complicated. At least now we got the explanation that that's what I was looking for, and I think that will be useful for a lot of people if they were listening and they listen to this and they want to research it. You just gave them a foundation for an idea that they can research. That's what I was digging for.
Tommy, why don't you give like a 5-minute rundown on how to make it? We've covered it a bunch, but it takes about 5 minutes to cover the process, if you wouldn't mind. And then we're going to be actually doing a video on this process. I have some material. We have some of that. I'm also going to be doing a lactobacillus one on a guide on that. I have some labs already brewed up. I'm going to do like the 3-part stage on how they look like and in between, and so that y'all can see that too. Those will be coming out in the next week or two.
Sure. Just to kind of tease what the full video will be. Basically, what you're looking for is you want to decide, A, do I want my THC psychoactive or not? Well, everybody would think yes, but there are certain patients you're dealing with. They need high levels of THC, but they don't want to be stupid. Maybe they've never been around cannabis. So you would take that plant material and you would simply process it cold at temperatures up to 200 degrees in your oven or in your sous vide, in that kind of area, where you're just extracting the plant material directly into the cannabis oil. If you want the psychoactive effect, you're going to want to decarboxylate previously.
Whoa.
So the way we decarboxylate generally is we'll take our jars and we will put our plant material in it, seal it up tight. It's a mason jar. You've got the little lid thing, and it screws on. You can bake it and just look online. You can find how long you have to have it at X number of temperature to convert your THC into psychoactive stuff. You're going to then leave it after you do that in the jar overnight. And what's happening there is you're allowing the terpenes that would normally boil off when you're decarboxylating, and the whole neighborhood knows you're decarboxylating. We're keeping it in the jar because that's good medicine. If the neighborhood smells it, it's not going in your body. So we keep it in the jar. We let it reabsorb into the plant material. Then we just simply open the jar the next day. We put our coconut oil in, seal it back up, start a 5-day process, slow and low. Just it takes time. You spent a long time growing the plant, honor it, give it a couple days to extract it. You do it about 5 days. You drain it. You're going to run a second run of coconut oil in there for about the next 3 days. That base oil that you get out of there is as strong as shit. Oh my goodness. Whether it's THC psychoactive or not, it's crazy strong. We're now going to add some lecithin to that. A liquid sunflower lecithin is the best thing I have found. I've tried everything. It's easy to work with. You're going to mix it in there. And what the lecithin is doing is it's taking the hard to absorb resins of CBD and THC and making your body really want to eat them. You can eat THC, you can eat CBD, and you're going to poop out about 70% of it. You can rub it on your body, you're going to get about 30% of it. Simply by encapsulating, that's it. Perfect. Roger has the exact stuff. Simply by adding about a tablespoon of that to about a quart of the extracted oil, it's going to bind with the resins and make the resins unbelievably more bioavailable to your cells. So we're not making anything stronger than anybody else. We're just making what we make more available to our loved ones. And that's pretty much the whole process in a nutshell. You're going to want to kind of keep it refrigerated because you know it has the chance of going rancid. If you want to keep a good long shelf life with it, you can add about 1% of cereal acid to it. It'll give you much more shelf life. Or just keep it in the damn fridge. Only take out what you need for the week. You're not going to have problems with it.
That's interesting because I thought it originally we said that we thought that a long shelf life without having to be cooled. I thought originally did we change
coconut?
No, but any
well,
oil,
that's good to know.
Any oil
long shelf life. However, when you introduce some of the fats and lipids from THC plant, you're now
organic matter makes it go.
The coconut oil, you're best to put it in the fridge or put a preservative like a stearic acid in it.
Okay.
At about a 1% rate.
Very cool. Very cool. That's
I'm not trying to nerd out on everybody. You know,
No, that's excellent. It's nice that you include the lecithin because, you know, originally when Tommy shared the formula, his idea was he didn't add the lecithin. That's like like adding nitrous to your car.
No,
it's you take the coconut oil and it already kicks ass. I mean, if you take a teaspoon, like we talked earlier, you just feel it through your whole body immediately. It's literally, you feel it immediately. And you add the lecithin and it supercharges that shit. So I haven't done that yet. I haven't added that yet. So
there's ways to supercharge it so much beyond that, but we don't share those.
There is some proprietary stuff after the ancient stuff.
That's where Tommy was at when then him and I got together and worked on the formula and some of the other stuff. And now it's like
it's stupid, man. It's just
psychotic. We've made formulas that were so strong we had to dial them back by orders of magnitude because they were it was insane. Like we've made some stuff that for edible oils that was just psychotic. Like 20 milligrams, and I didn't know where it was anymore.
Yeah, I ate a spoon of my stuff just testing it, and I literally lost an entire day. over 24 hours, I didn't even get out of bed to pee. Holy shit, that man.
Yeah, but think about that. What
It
that
happened.
like, if they would think about what that would do for our military, like when I'm sorry to, because I'm not big on you having wars, but we got our boys going over there and fighting wars. Think about that. You could take a teaspoon of that shit, and they could not have pain if their leg was blown apart or something for a whole day. Like to manage the pain.
Funny enough, that the military actually worked with a couple of different versions of THC, including THC analogs, during the 50s, and actually developed some bombs that were aerosol bombs that were similar to a fuel air bomb, but would spray THC analogs. And the idea would be to spray these and basically put to sleep the enemy and make them super stoned and pass out, so that our troops could come up. But think about it. It's like a peace nuke. For real.
They don't want to find Doritos.
I'm all
right? Like it's like the opposite of a bomb. You know what I mean?
Where's the Doritos?
Right? It's awesome. Too. It's the best idea for a weapon that anyone has ever come up with. By a country mile. Just make everyone so stoned they can't fight anymore. I think every nation around the world is okay with that weapon. Right? So I think it's chemical warfare we can all get behind.
Wow, that's funny.
Anyways, so they actually experimented with this, and they had some experiments that actually worked out fairly well, but it ended up not being particularly viable, and then it ended up falling into the whole chemical weapons convention, because technically it was still a chemical weapon, so they ended up abandoning it. But that is something that the military did actually spend a lot of time and resources in researching. LSD as well. They tried a couple of aerosol LSDs as well.
I love everybody. I'm going to sign off.
Tommy, thanks for explaining that again in your new little.
Actually, Tommy, do you want to give us a quick rundown of what you've been up to lately before we run?
Oh, okay. I've been working on a lot of paperwork stuff. I had the privilege of being Steve's chauffeur, drove him up to Humboldt, where he taught at a conference that Dutch had put together. If you've not been to one of his conferences, this guy is bringing mad science together for his conferences, the best I've seen. So I got to go audit the conference up in the middle of Humboldt County, where they went into 20, 30-year-old organic growers and said, hey, you're doing some stuff wrong, and brought the science lovingly, presented it to the community. Oh, my gosh, just to be there and watching the community eat it up. Steve did a phenomenal presentation there. And then we came down to Half Moon, and we had some of the lead aquaponic people from around the country come to Ken's farm at Ouroboros and put on a 5-day event. Oh, just staggering. So I've been in school. It's just been really, really awesome. I've also been working on some paperwork stuff for our company, kinds of things like that. That's boring. Nobody cares about that. And it's looking like I'm going to be able to have some lab stuff going on in the near future, and looking forward to sharing that with people on the panel and the community about, if you spend all the time growing these delicious plants, how to get the most out of it. But that's pretty much been my stuff. And I also today got to go walking. It took enough time. My son told me, we live in the middle of the redwoods. Have you been for a walk? And I went walking amongst some of the old girls. You want to know your place on the planet? You walk among the redwoods, and just enjoying leading a blessed life, having a lot of exciting stuff to deal with, and learning. I mean, I'm about to hit 60 or so, and I'm learning more than I think I've ever known. And it's really exciting to be a part of it all.
Awesome.
And I'm out.
Cool.
Good to see everybody. Good to see you, Mr. Green Jeans. Good to see you, Raj.
Nice talking to you tonight, Tommy. It was an awesome show tonight.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I think we'll wrap it up. Why don't you tell everybody how to find you, Tommy, before you go?
I can be found at oldfartgrows@gmail. You can also find my channel. It's old and stale, just kind of like I am. I haven't put a lot of content up lately. I've been so busy, business kinds of stuff. I'm looking forward to getting back to it. But Old Fart Grows on YouTube. You can see my old garden and me coming up. I'm new to this whole thing. I have so much less experience than everybody else on the panel. Sometimes I don't quite know why I'm here.
Yeah, no.
But if you want to prove that,
Get your own place, man. You don't have less experience than anybody.
But if I can help you out, if you had some questions or whatever with making some medicine for your loved ones, I'm very, very passionate about that. I am completely off opiates because of this stuff. So if I come off a bit evangelical or a bit like I'm on a jihad, I am. But I love to share it. So if you need to get a hold of me, Old Fart Grows on at Gmail. Every once in a while I do an Instagram thing, but oh my gosh, that's been forever. I hope to get back to that too. But that's how you get a hold of me if you need to. Peace out, guys.
Thanks, Tommy.
All right, thanks, Tommy.
Good night.
Night. Real quick, I'm working on a bunch of company stuff. I've been teaching. Charlie Schultz, Ken, and I taught this past weekend. Mr. Green Jeans, I'm gonna if you wouldn't mind just muting your mics, giving us a little bit of feedback.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No worries. Thank you. Ken Armstrong and I and Charlie Schultz taught a 4-day class, commercial aquaponics class, and then I taught a 1-day cannabis class with that. We'll be teaching that again. We'll have dates announced soon. And along with a farm-to-table dinner at the farm, which is really cool, with a chef from Ritz-Carlton comes over and does the whole thing. It's really nice. It's a four-course meal, and most of it is from the farm or it's from local organic farms nearby. So it's really, really cool experience, and I had a blast. Again, Tommy and I wanted to get a chance to talk with Josh from Dutch Blooms, but we had that incredible experience up with the Science of Regenerative Organic Cannabis Conference. We're hoping to do an aquaponic version here at some point in the summer, and then we'll have some more cannabis ones here in the fall. I know they're looking to schedule, so definitely look forward to those. They're by far the most educational conferences I've ever been to, and it's been really good, and I've learned a lot both times. Even hearing some people's same talks on the same subjects, there was different people in the crowd that were asking different questions that actually got into way different topics and ended up being extremely useful for us to learn a lot more in-depth things about different topics that we didn't even touch on at the other conference. So it was really interesting, especially in regards to insects and stuff like that with Susan. I know that was a really neat thing. She had a whole thing about beneficial insects and which ones to use for cannabis, which was a great little guide. In fact, hold on. I think I have it here. Yeah, here we go. Nice little guide on what insects to use.
Awesome!
Inspired me for beneficial insects for cannabis.
Email me.
Kind of inspired me to try and put one together for beneficial insects for all of aquaponics for veggies too. Maybe try to do something more. And then also I wanted to plug this company. It's super cool. It's called BioBest. She also is one of the other cool companies that she went over to. That Susan from the conference went over, and they do a lot of beneficial insects. So if you're looking to go that way, definitely check them out as well. So I've just been working at speaking at conferences, working on the company, doing lots of, again, paperwork, like Tommy said, none of the fun stuff. What's good for thrips, beneficial nematodes, and then just sprays. is the best thing for that. Thrips can be a little bit tricky. There's certain mites that are good for thrips as well. Somebody asked that in chat. What is the best thing for thrips? I found a combination of beneficial nematodes and a spray like kapow or a lemongrass oil or even a spinosad, depending on if you're going to use it for commercial sale or not. Can be the best way to get rid of them. But aside from that, just trying to do company stuff, applying for licenses, meeting with different people on different topics and different things, meeting with lawyers, meeting with various people that you need to get a company off the ground. And it's really good to talk earlier about all the different complications that are getting a business started. People don't realize all the different hoops that you have to jump through and all the different crazy things you have to put up with and all the different wackiness that we have to tolerate and just somehow come up with a solution for on a daily basis that people don't even realize. And it's crazy. So it was really great to talk about that. So
yeah, I know you're trying to scare me too, because I'm entering into my first big old venture, maybe, out there in the great old Canada.
We'll see. So a question in chat is kapow good? Yes, kapow is great. It's the one that I like the best for insect sprays. You said is spinosad okay to burn? Isn't it synthetic? No, it's not synthetic. It's absolutely algae derived. If you're really curious about spinosad. Yep. So although just because it's organic doesn't mean it's good. I mean, arsenic's organic, yucca extract's organic, but it will kill your fish in seconds. So organic doesn't actually mean anything in that regard. So let's wrap the show up here. It's been quite a long time. It's been a long episode. So thank you everyone for watching. If you're still with us, I appreciate all of our wonderful guests. We will be doing more to bring in more sustainable guests, more people that can talk on compost teas, ferments, general education that can apply for aquaponics and soil farming and other kinds of production. So we will have a lot more of that coming up. And thanks again for watching. We'll be back again next week. Again, hopefully with Dr. Faust. If not, I'll have another great guest. And we have some pretty cool guests lined up for the next 2 or 3 months. And I'm going to be posting those episodes up in the next week or two to try and line those up long term so that you guys know with more of an advance notice on which guests are going to be on for which weeks. And then I also think we might end up doing additional growth show at some point as well. We've talked about doing a second show, which is more of a panelist kind of show, maybe everyone getting ready and doing more of a guided, video show with everyone's grows and things like that, where each of the different panelists can show off their grows and have more time for all of them to talk about their expertise. And it's great that we have all these guests, and we've really built this show into that. But I think it'd be great if we could also have a separate kind of showcase for all of our panelists as well. Provide these great questions and these great, platform for us to provide such great content with these great guests. So that's something else we're kicking around right now. We don't have any kind of formal thing yet right now, but we're kicking around the idea of maybe a second show each week to provide for that, because this show gets a little bit long and people get a little bit burned out. So, all right, why don't you tell everyone how to find you, Mr. Green Jeans?
There we go. Yeah, greenjeansgarden.com. It's on there. Yeah. I'm there. You can also find me on IC Mag. I started lurking over there a bit, and of course on Reddit and here at this lovely place. I love this place. Thanks, awesome, you guys, for having me on.
What about you, Roger?
Well, you can find me at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com. And I'm getting ready to open up my my online store and a chat network. So we'll see what happens here after I get my spring planning done. That's about it. You can find me here every Thursday night.
Awesome.
And possibly, if we do it, yeah, I see what your concept for the second show. That's kind of interesting. where we're gonna so you're talking about when you say a second show for the panelists and friends to provide their own techniques and all. That'll be really interesting, because I've found that no matter how we're growing, every technique and all of us are learning, and that's what I love. Even somebody with the expertise you have sits here and says, well, I went over here and I learned this from this guy. See, that's what people need to hear. Somebody that knows more than most people about growing and all the biology and the science of it, and then shares it, and then will admit they just learned something last week. That's phenomenal for you. I want to say thank you for doing this for all of us. And also, when I love it because the panelists you're bringing, even doctors, we are doctors and company owners, and they come on and they're experts and they learn things and say they admit things on the show. So the whole community that you're creating right here is a community which is exactly what you want to have, and I have to salute you for that, because really the people that you bring up that are doctors and top-notch experts in our field and gurus that we've looked up to for 40 years, like Jeff Lowenfels and people like that, and you go, wow, we're all a part of this, so and then they say that when we have somebody like Jeff even goes, oh, I never thought of that. So see, it takes all of us. It takes like it says, it takes a village to raise a child, and you have a child that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. He's starting to be a teenager. And I'll tell you what, I'm so glad to be along for the ride. I tell you, thank you for all the information you shared with me the last year. We're coming up on the anniversary, 420, man. I can't wait.
Yep. And I enjoy having you guys on and, putting this on and booking all the cool guests and learning everything. And, thanks a lot for definitely mentioning that. And, I love telling everybody about all the different kinds of stuff that we learn. I regularly learn new stuff and apply it all the time. That's why we have a bunch of smaller systems so we can test things all the time. Or a bunch of smaller different test vessels right now. I'm doing a bunch of 5-gallon batches of ferments because I can do 80 bajillion of them instead of doing that, and it's enough to at least give me enough to do a test run with a couple of plants and see how it grows, just as an example. So
yeah,
makes a lot more sense. There's something else I was going to mention right after you said that, but anyways, I'm too tired. It's been a long week. I'll thanks for everyone for watching. I'll catch you guys again next week, but look forward to some great guests, and hopefully we'll be back to at some point in the near future 2 shows a week like we used to. Maybe not the news show. I really love the news show, but we weren't getting any. We were getting maybe 70 views per episode, and Roger and I put a ton of time into that, and I felt like we spent way more time into it than we got any kind of response out of the viewership. So we're going to try and do
consolidated it. If we made just a news episode, a news portion of the other show, and did like a half an hour, that's it. Just pick the coolest or most provocative topics for half an hour in the show and let the panel discuss it. It would work better.
Sure, and we'll talk about that
instead
offline.
Of like 2 hours of news crap everywhere.
Yep. Anyways, so we'll
love you though.
I'll cover that offline. Anyways, thanks to everyone for watching. We'll see you guys soon. Check it out, ouroborosfarms.com, if you want to take any of the classes coming up. There's a bunch of different classes: medicinal herbs, cannabis, commercial, a bunch of other cool stuff. I teach over there along with Ken. Check that out. And then also puritymedicinals.com. My YouTube is Potent Ponics. We'll have a bunch of cool new info out on the YouTube channel here in the next couple of weeks. I've been doing some recording and some writing and stuff like that for that. So we'll see you guys soon, and we'll have some more interesting content. Cheers. Bye. Thanks a lot for watching.
Good night, friends.